Well, good morning, everybody. Let's go ahead and get started. Call the meeting to order. Give us a roll call, please, Jen.
Mike Dolson,
I'm here.
Tom McDonald,
Here.
Jennifer Finley, Jim Molitor, Carol Langford, Danielle Matt,
Here.
Bing Matt, James Steele Jr.,
Oh, nah.
Martin Charlo,
Present.
Len Tootieth, Lenny Strahan.
Thank you, Jen. Morning, everybody. Morning, Len. Len's here. Mike, would you do a prayer for us this morning?
Sikit bukuni now son mate ke at mis papa wasia pika keko. Ask you for our leadership throughout the world, our native leaderships throughout the world, and in here today, that their minds and bodies are healthy. Their minds and bodies are healthy so that they can take care of their people with their needs. Ask you to watch over each and every one of them. Ask you to reach out to even the ones that ain't here on the reservation here. Reach out to them. Reach out to the ones that are even in our iron bar hotels that we call prison. We don't forget about anybody as Native people. No matter what they have done, the crimes they have committed, they still belong to us as Native people. We still ask help for them as we would ourselves. I think you watch over my leadership. Hey,
Thank you, Mike. We have two sets of minutes this morning. Minutes from last month, but April 30th. We'll take a look at them first.
Motion to approve the minutes from April 30th.
Motion by Martin to approve the April 30th minutes, second by Tom. Any other discussion or changes? All in favor? James?
Yes.
Thank you. Unanimous. The second set of minutes is from May 2nd. We got a motion to approve. Go ahead, Len.
Just one minor change. In the paragraph where we're talking with Jody about the dumpsters, on the very last sentence, Len Two Teeth wants the staff to track the man hours and send the bill to the county. I would like that to track the man hours and send the bill to Lake County.
We got a motion by Martin to accept the minutes. Any other changes? Second by Bing. All in favor?
I will abstain since I wasn't here.
We got 6-4 and Tom abstains. Actually 7-4, pardon me. 7-4 and Tom abstains. Thank you. We do have an agenda. Anybody have additions for today? Tom, 2 things. Martin, Carol. Okay. Anything else? 2 walk-ins. I would, with motion by Tom to accept the agenda with the additions. Second by Martin, all in favor. We got unanimous. The walk-ins are in open, aren't they? Okay. Let's take our first walk-in.
We got Cecile Shorty.
Come up, Cecilia. Morning. Go ahead. You got the floor.
Oh, Chesquex. My name's Cecilia Shorty. Ysem Kune on Louis Squest. Oh, I'm Cecilia Shorty. I came here today in front of you to propose the idea of starting and being committed to a neighborhood watch program for the old agency community in efforts to lower the criminal activity and to improve our community in well-needed areas as well. Some of these well-needed areas that need improvements are the environment. Some of the concerns we have are the littering, fire safety, emergency evacuation plan. As we have recently discovered previously prior to this moment that we do in fact need a plan out there. I also think it'd be really beneficial to have a neighborhood watch program to better involve all of us in a good, healthy, respectful way of communicating and cohabitating in a remote area such as Dixon Agency, because we are so remote out there. I have done some research on the Neighborhood Watch program. And the 3 layers of defense, the starting kit, first of all, is $57.50. And it includes 2 signs that post the Neighborhood Watch signs. One's plastic, one's aluminum. And yes, I'm pretty sure we got it. The community we've already decided how to, where we kind of, we just have already kind of communicated, yes, which ones we wanted. And also it comes with 15 window decals, so they're safe for removal if needed. And it also includes 3 handbooks, 3 copies of 3 different handbooks, and one of them's the participant handbook, the emergency handbook, and okay. Oh, okay. It, the website has multiple free information that we can rely and depend on using ourselves. We're coming together pretty well out there with the with the Nita Mat building. And I did go around and asked in person also, just to get a numbers, to see what our numbers were like on the willing participants. And my number was 7, including myself, and I didn't even ask the rest of the community yet, but I will be proactive and engage in their willingness to volunteer. So the first level, the 3 layers of defense, the first one is the street level view, the street level defense, which is what the provided 2 signs that post awareness about the program. The second layer of defense is the home defense, which with the decals that reinforces the awareness of the program. And also the third layer of defense is the participant level, which is engaging and willing to call into the police and or dispatch to notify about the problems. And this website, has a really good printout. I haven't yet seen them yet, but I will soon. I guess they have a bunch of free printable handout worksheets also. So, any other questions?
It sounds like a real good idea to me. Thoughts? Tom, then Carol?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Ms. Shorty, for bringing this in. I think, the minimal cost to start up or join or pay for that community watch program is so minimal. I don't know why we wouldn't just automatically do that for any community that steps forward and wants to do this.
Exactly.
So, I mean, that's exactly what I would propose we do, because it's such a, it's really your action along with some signs and, some other propaganda, some other things that are going on. But that first step is of course, posting it. That's
Yes.
a big deterrent. And so, I would certainly, make the motion that we would support any of our tribal communities that would like to do this in the initial phase of setting up a community watch program, neighborhood watch.
Thank you, Tom. Go ahead. Carol?
Yeah, I want to thank you for coming in and stepping up. I worked with Anita when we worked on the project when she was still alive down there to do the cleanup. Of course, we got ourselves in a little trouble with some of the stuff we did, but I believe it's improved a lot, but there's so much more to do. And I think one of the key things, and we have encouraged Mission Valley Power and the roads program, once they do those roads, they need to put the lights back in place because it's pretty dark down there. I mean, I don't live down there, but I've been down there when at night and it's dark and you can't see anything. So I think that's one of the lines of protection that needs to be put back in place. And I commend you for stepping up, because every community is dealing with this, but unless there's somebody like yourself willing to step out and take action, it won't happen. And you seem so well versed in it already that I just know it's going to be successful. And I think whatever we can do to help, definitely. And I think Danielle also has some money available through her community projects program, that she might be able to assist, but I'm with Tom. I think we need to provide, if they're set up like you are, provide the assistance that they need to get started. I think it's wonderful. So thank you. Thank you for watching out for your community.
Thank you, Carol. Go ahead, Danielle.
Cece, hi. Sorry I'm not there today in person. I wanted to thank you for coming in, and I know for our conversation and all the research you've done, this should be a really successful for our community. So thank you, Cece.
Yes, thank you for your support, Danielle.
Well, I think we got a motion by Tom and a second by Carol to support the initiation of Neighborhood Watch and all of our communities that want it, and especially the agency.
Yes,
So,
well, we have many concerns that we wanted improvements in. I don't know if now is the time, but also the posted speed limit signs out there is way too fast. I'm without transportation and have been for over a year, and everywhere I go is on foot. I hitchhike and I walk by foot to where I'm going. And the speed, if just standing out by the road, through all the weather, I just noticed it's too fast from the beginning of the starting north end of the agency all the way until you get past the Y in the intersection. It's just too fast. It's dangerous. Anyone, if you just simply just drove and got out of your car and watched some of those cars and how they pass by, it's too fast. There's children that walk along that road. There's wildlife and animals. There's the loss of the bears, and those kind of incidents could be less frequent if we had a slower posted speed limit. That coming on the other end of coming in from the east side of the coming into Dixon where it slows down and you can take that turn to go head towards north again towards the agency. That one needs to be, I noticed, I would recommend that speed limit sign be back several yards. When you're coming in to turn, you're always slamming on your brakes, maybe a 2-lane on that road, but it's something to think about. It's just too soon. That's posted speed limit sign. It's almost like it's too soon, too slow, you know? We're always like, oh, and people are doing really wide turns into the other lane. So yeah, it's just a hazard.
I do know that a request has been put into Sanders County to actually evaluate the speeds through Dixon. I don't, yeah, I'll check and see if the commissioners will also consider from agency to Dix. So I'll check in on that, but there should be a speed survey going in Dixon soon, and hopefully a reduction of that speed limit right through Dixon itself. But agency to Dixon, I agree. I see people along there all the time. I commute that way. Go ahead, Martin.
Especially with all the potato trucks that go through there. And they, in the spring, fall, they're caravanning 2 at a time going. Yeah, they don't slow down at all.
Other things, Cecilia?
Oh yes, and another concern of mine in regards to me living out in the agency is I have on numerous occasions have noticed the plant life and the vegetation up there. It needs to be abundance, and the Quaquai are very sacred to our people, to our nation, to the circle of life, that they are so sacred, they shouldn't be hungry. It's a concern of mine. It's been weighing on my heart because I feel like it's truth. It is truth. Whatever it would entitle or require to ensure that they have plenty to eat and water as well. So it's very sacred. for their survival. And in regards to the Quequay and the Bison Range, which we're proud that we got ownership of the Quequay again in that sacred area, is also the poaching. I suggest that the passing of Harold the elk should have never happened. I don't know how that happened, and it continues to happen. And I feel like even the community, non-tribal members also have noticed that it's an issue, that it's a concern of not just tribal members, but even this morning, talking about the poaching up there and how it raises concern.
Anybody with thoughts? It definitely is a concern.
I
There's
mean,
no doubt.
if we have SNK technology and the drones or such places as the safety of dams, motion censored, I don't know how frequent that would be. Maybe it could be something, a new position of employment, but maybe like an automatic sensor that goes off. And a drone to go check it out, or a camera to alert and address the situation, maybe. That was my idea. I mean, well, that was,
Carol and then Tom.
Yeah, I think we just let Dan McClure know. I think they're gearing up for the drones and that kind of thing, and actually hopefully adding gate guards, because it's definitely effective and it has been effective in the past when we used those, but it's actually funding. But if we can start doing, like you said, is put a sensor when somebody passes through and then check it out that way, that's definitely a cost savings. It's just a matter of getting up to speed and getting it going. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, since the creation of the National Bison Range and since the evolution of elk management on the Bison Range, it's always been one of those things with the elk. There's always been poaching there of trophy elk, and those elk have been planted all over Western United States. That the elk from the Bison Range is pretty amazing. When we were managing it, co-manage it with the service, the biggest improvement we had for those nighttime forays into the Bison Range, where people reach anywhere on that entire perimeter of the 19,000 acres, was the game cams we put on the wildlife crossings. So we were able to capture people entering the Bison Range underneath Highway 93, their camel outfits on, going in after antlers. And so the cameras were a huge deterrent. And so the goal, at least when we first started with the restoration of the Bison Range, was to put motion sensor cameras around the entire perimeter of the fence, because that's the only way you can stop it. You have to have that alarm, you have to have that motion sensor, and then that gives you that opportunity that someone just breached. Could be a black bear, it could be a grizzly bear, could be a tree falling over the fence, whatever it might be, but that movement to that action would be identified and recorded and alert the game wardens or the officers that could go respond. But that's our goal. That was a position we created, was Antoine Paul's position to do I&E out there. I mean, not I&E, but technology, and put as many cameras as possible on the Bison Range to manage the public, because the public gets all kinds of safety issues when they're on the Red Sleep Road or wherever they're at. So there's a lot of rules on the Bison Range besides just you can't haul off elk antlers, a lot of other rules. And so that's their goal, is to as many cameras as possible within their budget. But thank you for bringing it up. That Harold disappearing was amazing. That's unfortunate.
yeah.
We reviewed the whole case with our game wardens.
Did they ever locate the suspect, or were charges ever brought about? What is also, I had a question, what is the regulations as when an animal or a sacred being dies while guests or tourists are up there or others. I just think like, at the slow speed limit that's posted going up in the bison range, that there should be no reason why a snake gets ran over. I mean, is there any like, something we can do to encourage and enforce the safety of the bison range? It's such a really sacred area, it really is.
Imagine we can do more signage. Don't know what else to prevent snakes getting run over.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, the speed limit's a critical factor for that. Dust abatement's a critical factor, so people can see it's not a dusty road. They can see there might be a reptile or snake on the road. The education of every visitor is a critical thing.
Correct.
And we don't do a good job of that because the layout of that facility wasn't designed for visitor use. It was, the service's mission was managing wildlife. And the whole phenomenon of visitors coming into that refuge is not something that they were good at or designed, or they didn't think of the visitor center as a check station for people to go in and pay. So our best future management of the visitors is to have a brand new entrance facility, a secondary one off Highway 93, and have them go through a checkpoint where they actually have to pay and get information, and we have that one-on-one with every car coming into the facility. We're missing that right now. And that's the long-term goal, at least of this council and previous actions. So hopefully that would be a good answer. It's an educated visitor is a good visitor. The ones that don't stop and drive through or don't pay aren't the good visitor. So our goal would be to educate every visitor coming in to those issues that you're saying. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no reason to run over a snake.
Yeah,
We had a real pet bull snake right there at the visitor center,
really.
and we'd see him all the time, and then he got run over by a car in the parking lot right there.
Wow.
And he was a big bull snake, beautiful snake. Felt really bad about it.
Yeah. Also, if it's a refuge, how come they allow fishing there? When I mean, to me, the circle of life is so sacred to me and to many others, truly sacred, and we're announcing that it's a refuge, then why do they allow fishing and a fishing access there? When my heart tells me a refuge is a refuge, that's just what my heart tells me. If it's a refuge, why do they allow fishing access there when it's a blessing and it's a gift as a refuge?
I like that question. Go ahead, Tom.
Because it was set up as a buffalo reserve, that was the only species in the original operational facility that was protected. All the other animals were hunted and fished on the refuge. The rules for the refuge are annually reviewed by council. The tribal council, if they chose to remove fishing as an opportunity, because it can be it's a safety issue. A lot of times people fish along Mission Creek there, and there's great big bull elk down in there, and there could be a bear, it could be a mountain lion. And so it can be a situation where, again, you'd want to have an educated angler fishing there. So that's reviewed annually. It could be something that we brought forward as a safety issue. That was a paramount thing. But I can tell you this, it's important for every one of our tribal members to utilize the resources we have to feed their families. And so if there was a tribal member that would want to fish Mission Creek or the Jocko River as it goes in and out of the bison range, I would always want to facilitate that in any way, shape, or form. So I think restricting it might be something that I would look at depending on where the person resides and if they're part of our community or not. But it's reviewed every year. So if there's a safety issue, we can certainly look at it. That's at least the background that I can give you. Thanks for bringing it up.
I wonder what the numbers look like that actually pertain to the amount of license or permits that are actually in use. Like I wonder how often fishermen actually utilize that area.
Mr. Chair, not very often. It's one of the, it is really, really good fishing. And don't put this in the minutes, Abby. So, it's a great place to go fishing. It's mostly a non-native fishery because the water's pretty warm by the time Mission Creek makes it through the bison range. So it's got some rainbow trout and some other species in there, brown trout. But you won't find a bull trout really in there unless it's, you know, this time of year. But it is really pretty good fishing. But not too many people utilize it. A lot of folks are scared to do that. And part of the training and the mission for the facility is stay in your car. We really don't want you to get out and walk around unless it's on the
Correct.
designated trails that we've set up. So, a lot of folks are just, you know, once you say, hey, there could be a grizzly bear or a black bear in the creek bottom, they kind of take a different thought about it. And, so it's really light pressure. In fact, I think most of the pressure there is by tribal members.
Okay. Also another concern. I guess is what is the outcome on Atatitsa? I guess that's just a personal question, but I mean, I've been curious what if they were going to bring Atatitsa. I know I had worked previously at the bison range a few years back, so I guess I have some knowledge about the bison range, but I knew they were talking about bringing Atatitsa back to the bison range or, well, back here to the reservation.
As soon as we have a location,
Mm.
you'll be home. And good possibility is that the new visitor center Tom has mentioned. So
Oh, a new one, huh?
that's more
That'd be
likely.
nice. Yes. Yeah, and I also think it's a good idea too for the information, because when I worked at the bison range prior to this moment, when I would administer the day passes, or the passes and the permits and took their fee money, yeah, it just would be a good idea to educate them a little bit more instead of just saying, oh, William, okay, you know, I'm at Beach Dimension, you know, like all day long. So that would be really beneficial, I think. But I also have another issue. All this twine that's around in our communities. Like I said, I walk a lot, so it just poses a big threat in the survival of our sacred wildlife out there. I mean, I can tremendously notice that it's like not deliberate, you know, but it's so abundant that it's like this really strong twine. I haven't really thought much about it, but just beyond noticing it. But it is pretty abundant, and that poses a health hazard and a risk for the wildlife there. And for their nests and the lolly and nest and their babies.
I don't know if we can outlaw twine on the rest.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead,
the
Tom.
good news is, farmers and ranchers are using less of it than they used to. That's the good news. And so, the observation of the nests, the osprey nests, eagle nests, other nests, is that you don't see as much twine in the nests as you used to, but it's very deadly. It's not good. And, you know, a good rancher will make sure if they're still using bales that have twine on them, they'll pick up their twine. But, a lot of ranchers don't do that. So it's dispersed out in the field and birds pick it up.
Again, more education help there.
Yes. Also, another concern that our community has is that raises great concern is the access through there, as that whole area is very, very sacred. It's so sacred. And I have been privileged, and it's an honor to know how sacred that area is and the importance in the circle of life in honor of our ancestors that didn't make it through. And if it's preventable, then we need to prevent it with great efforts and with our hearts. Who we are them and they are us, and we are all one together. So if, as there is nests there, I just think it's in better interest for the eagles and the ospreys and the hawks and all the other lollies and all the other sacred wildlife that live in that area to not have those access points past through the agency is what I'm saying is it would be hugely appreciated if those access points weren't there.
Any, commentary on access?
Well, sometimes I spend some time outside. Well, many of us spend some time outside, and newcomers, we're like, oh, that's a new car. And sometimes it's, do you really have a permit? Like, who are you? What are your intentions? And I just don't think I think it's in all of our interests to close that access site, especially to non-tribal members. Maybe, yeah, especially to non-tribal members.
Any thoughts?
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Daniel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Cece, that site down there in the pool yard, it's undeveloped. And so with it being undeveloped, it's not monitored a lot like the developed sites. People, I think, will continue to use it, whether it's developed or not. So I think if we develop that access, so we can monitor it more closely, would probably be the best step is to make sure we're monitoring it. So I think we need to get an actual ramp down there and some garbage cans, so that way the trash and stuff stops coming through, and the game wardens will spend some time down there.
Thank you for that helpful information. Also, oh, and what are the regulations? My question is when we are in these sacred places and others are allowed to have a permit to be there, is an enrolled member respectfully able to ask them for verification and requesting and seeing their license or their permit? Because it does raise concern for me that people may or may not sneak in and utilize, and because we're so remote out there that they may or may not be taking advantage.
I know on the west side in my district, we got a lot of remote areas. And we do have a lot of our tribal people will ask the non-tribal looking people if they have their actual permit. They do. They definitely do ask. And I don't recommend it depending on who you're looking at. that can get you in trouble, just personally. But, there's no rule against you asking for whoever you encounter if they have their tribal use permit.
Yeah, well, there's certainly, you don't have to ask them to see it, but you can remind them that they need one. That to be on our
Okay.
property, hey, you know, you have to have a rec permit. Or you have to have, you know, trespass permit. That's fair game. But typically to ask someone to show an ID or something of that nature, usually it's someone with the authority to do that. So, and it can respond accordingly if someone goes adverse on you. So, like the chairman's correct. Wouldn't advise it, but I think if you just remind the public you encounter that they need a rec
Okay.
permit, this is private land and it's a privilege to be on it. Just give them that kind of information. That's good enough.
Mhm.
Might keep you safe.
Yes. Also, it raised concern when I was walking down the highway a few days ago. Kind of where that old turn is. I was leaving Charlotte, heading south. And about to around the area where you can take that other entrance to go to the Charlotte dump. That there was quite a bit of oil in the ditch there where the water runs right there. There was quite a noticeable blue oil in that water. I don't know how come, but it was a concern of mine.
We got a water guy right back there.
Okay, yeah. And also, I think there was one. Oh yeah, and maybe about the possibility also about adding Ponderay proudly in respect to our ancestors, past, present, and future, about the possibility of adding Ponderay onto our, what is that word? Yeah, yes. Oh, it is? Okay.
It's getting on more and more things. Calais Bay is getting on more and more things. I don't know if the corporate name has never been changed, to my knowledge. And I would support doing that, yeah.
Hmm. I think that's everything.
Go ahead, Daniel.
Oh, just wanted to thank you, Cece, for bringing that up because James and I were talking on Tuesday about adding Ponderay to the flag as well and seeing what we can do to get that added there. And I just appreciate you, Cece, for coming in. We're also in need of election judges down in Dixon, and if that's something you'd be interested in, I'd like to get you set up with the right person. It's part-time and maybe help keep you busy and active in the community like you have been. So if Jennifer, if you could get her in contact with the right people, if she's interested, that would be awesome.
Okay, will do. I'll talk with her after she's done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. I think that's everything today.
Well, thank you for all of that. See-
Exciting. I've been writing I so many ideas down since I lived in the agency, so hanging out with acquaintances and friends, and I would be there with my notebook. So what do you think your input is? So I have quite a few ideas. It's nice to be able to finally get
Oh.
to vocalize and present these.
I would like to finish the motion that Tom made to support everybody, every community in Neighborhood Watch, with Carol seconding. All in favor? I think it's unanimous, and I'm sure you'll be the first that gets supported.
Thank you. very
Thank you.
much. Oh yeah, and we respect that ancestors. Landlords.
Mike, go ahead and come on up. And welcome and good morning.
Hey, sick you kid. I'm here this morning on behalf of the Two Eagle River School and looking for some verification here and clarification, I guess. My involvement, I guess, was in 2023, hearing our staff talking about their 50th anniversary powwow. I informed them that maybe this would be a good body to come in and start with in looking for funding, because we know in the past, way back in the day, when powwows were happening, a lot of the powwow committees actually sat and went out and raised money. I guess the clarification I'm looking for, because I guess Rod had come in and was told to reach out to other entities. S&K Holding, S&K Electronics. All the entities that he reached out to, only one replied. Only one replied. And I guess a little bit upsetting that we have a non-tribal business on our reservation that's willing to donate $500 of advertisement for nothing. I asked him when they have the piece of paper, and I guess I'm just looking for clarification. Is this body gonna help the 50th anniversary powwow?
Mike, when,
I guess, I don't know what the number is, if he even brought in a number, but I know there's a lot of what I call in-between powwows. You got Veterans Powwow, you got SKC Powwow. And this is our past. Some of you may have even had kids going to this school, grandkids. And it's kind of important, a 50-year anniversary for a lot of our kids here on the reservation, maybe even parents. So I guess I'm here to look to see if this body is gonna help out the Two Eagle River School with their one-day powwow.
Mike,
And if I could get a motion or some kind, or even a number.
well, when Rodney came in, he actually gave us 3 different numbers and didn't tell us which one he was requesting. And everybody on council said, yes, we want to see a good celebration at Two Eagle for the 50th and that we will support it. And that's when folks were saying, well, we would expect all of our entities to add to that. And the suggestion was given to Rodney to go out and find out what resources he could get from them and come back and tell us what number he needed. And he has not done that. I think he was. At one point, he was even asking for $70,000, Mike.
70, well, if you're gonna do that, sure, we'll take that. No, I know.
And there's been other discussion as Martin's even volunteered to help since he did.
Well, they got all their staff, they know what they're doing. They got all their staff and everything ready for their powwow. They're just looking for help with the funding part of it.
Well, he never gave us a solid number. Go ahead, Martin.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for coming in, Mike. So, yeah, maybe it wasn't reflected in the minutes, but we told him to come back in after he talked to the corporations. Again, the minutes aren't an exact record of what is here, but, the other issue is if we're gonna do a big powwow like this, we should either do it on Friday or Saturday, not try to do it on Thursday afternoon as it's currently on the schedule. And then the other issue now is that Ronan is having their high school powwow on that Friday, so if we try to do on that Friday, that's gonna conflict with theirs. Saturday is gonna be probably the best day, because if we're doing a full contest powwow and we're trying to do it at from, I think it's 4 to 7 on Thursday afternoon, that eliminates a lot of staff that could go, that eliminates a lot of just, I know we granted a change of duty, but, the numbers that they were asking for is for like a full day of contest powwow. And that's a fair amount of money. And so of course we gotta ask other corporations to step in. And if they haven't responded, I think we'll probably ask Greg to follow up with them and ask why not, because they were very supportive of any other endeavors that I've ever asked them to do. So, and last time we did have, for the last event that we did like this, we asked, one of our executive officers to actually reach out to them with that request. So maybe that carried a little more weight than Rodney, but, we're not, I'm surprised that Rodney didn't come back already, to be honest with you, or talk to me individually when I go over there. So, we need numbers back from him. We need communication from him. So,
Take a look in your minutes.
and
He was not asked to come back, that's what I'm saying. You guys told him, he was approved for change of duty for tribal staff, change of duty. That's one of the things I seen in there. And then was asked to go and reach out to other entities, tribal entities, our SK Electronics, SK Technologies. The only one that replied back was Energy Keepers with $3,000. And that's going toward their t-shirts for the powwow, which I believe is like $6,000 for just the t-shirts. I mean, I guess I'm coming in here just to try to get something for them. We're under a month on their powwow happening.
When Rodney was in here, we made it very clear that we were going to support him. But he gave us 3 different numbers and we asked him to go find out what he could get and tell us what that possibility is. And now, Mike, you say they got the powwow figured out, so do they have a solid number that they need?
Well, that's what I'm here asking you for is that 20,000. If you guys can do the 20,000, that would help.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
Yeah, I would rather have, he's the head of the school. If there's other expenses, we need to figure out one figure and get it to him. But yeah, it's not your fault. Sometimes corporations don't respond right away. So if you could call Rodney, Greg, and find out what figure, because we don't want to just do powwow and then there's going to be other needs. We want to make sure it's a nice celebration for everything.
So by my notes and what I'll follow up on right now is I'll make sure to email Rodney for a list of the entities that he contacted and the results of those efforts. I'll reach out to the corporations and verify that they were contacted and confirm what their levels of support would be for this 50th anniversary celebration. And my request would be that Rodney provide a budget, much like the other celebrations do, that kind of give a scale of what that request is for, so that it can accompany what that tribal contribution is that matches what the need is. And I'll take any other direction or suggestions that you have.
That sounds good to me.
And I guess, with Councilman Charlo's, this deal going Monday through Thursday has been an annual, it's been held this day, the same time every year. Same time every year. That's why they're having the powwow on Thursday. It's an annual Elders Day week. That's been there for years.
And I'm totally aware of that. And you could still have that, but if we're gonna do a powwow like this, it's like a huge celebration. Like, why not make it that everyone can participate and have it be a bigger event to celebrate this? And that's what I'm saying. Like
And you're saying Ronan's got a powwow on Friday?
they do.
I don't know what to say to that.
Reporting, I'm just telling you what the advertisement I saw.
Good,
I know
Carol.
what to say. I hope we don't try to cover up. I mean, just because it's Ronan and it's not Two Eagle, that we don't cover up powwows. I mean, we need to give an opportunity to Indian students in all communities, so I hope we don't. And I don't know who was first, if it was Two Eagle, I don't know how to get Ronan to cancel, and if they were first, I don't know how to get Two Eagle to cancel, so.
Yeah, I don't know.
Be respectful on it all. I don't know.
And if Two Eagle has this celebration they want scheduled for Thursday, let's find out and support that as best we can.
I'd request that Rodney comes in as well. As soon as possible. Or even just contact you or something, because Mike's right, we only have a month and that's gonna fly by, less than a month. I mean, we got basically 3 weeks. So, yeah, this is kind of one of those urgent things where I expected to see Rodney in this week or hear something from him. And so if he misunderstood that, I truly don't know how. So,
Yeah, and I guess, you know, being on the powwow committee myself, I did explain to them to try to put some kind of a payout list, whatever they were gonna do. I'm not on their powwow committee. I tried to, just like the drum group, I pitch in when they ask me to. I try not to step in the front of them or anything with the drum group. I told them I'll be here if you've got any questions to ask me. I don't try to take any leadership away from them young men. We do have conversations. They do ask me questions, but I told them I'm never gonna be in there to lead you guys in any way. That's all on you guys as what you want to do as far as a drum group. So I guess, what do you want Rod to, I guess you're gonna call?
I think what Greg has lined out is probably a real good thing to do. And he'll have contact with Rod and then I'll talk to Greg. And we'll find out from there and I'll talk to Rod as well.
And you know, I guess dealing with that kind of money too, I guess they're a little leery. What are they gonna pay out? They don't know that, because they're a young group, but they got their mind and heart in the right place of doing this. If they didn't, I don't think they'd be doing it at all, as far as trying to put on a powwow. But being 50 years, you know, like I said, some of you got kids and grandkids that have graduated and probably working under this building here. So it's kind of important to them that they get this out there. The one that donated the $500 was the leader. The leader donated $500 of free advertisement. And that's a non-tribal entity there.
I think, Mike, that everybody on this council agrees with you that this needs to be a grand celebration. So,
What's that?
I say, I think everybody on this council agrees with you that this needs to be a grand celebration and we were looking to support it, but as I said, when Rod came in, he gave us 3 different numbers of different
Well,
levels.
may I ask what the numbers are? Cause I told him 20, I don't know what the other 2 numbers were. And you said 70, I don't know where he pulled that one out of the wind.
That's what we were
Out of
hoping
the
to
air
find
from.
out. That's what we were hoping to find out. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Mike, I'm glad you're in here because this needs to be taken care of as quick as possible. Yeah, this council is going to support any social power that comes before them. I can't imagine them not. But Arlene had a number. Arlene presented a solid number. And I think that's the number you're reflecting. But then they went, well, we should double it. We should make this, you know, add more prizes and then go bigger and bigger and bigger. And then red flags started flying up because it's such a short term. It's not like it's not a multi-day event. It's, as Martin suggested, it's a 3-hour event on a work day. So that was where questions came up. So looking for more money was the corporations were a good choice to grab more money. To add on to it, to inflate it and to make it as grand as possible.
And I agree with you, Martin, on that. I would have liked to seen the powwow happen like a Friday and a Saturday or something, but when it's an annual thing and they hold it Monday through Thursday, I'm not gonna tell them to change it, you know, but I guess it could be considered, if it's gonna be a powwow and a 50th anniversary, you wanna reach out and try to do the best you can. I would be all for a 2-day powwow. But I'm just one of the drivers there. I just told them I'd come in and find out and try to get some help in expediting some funding towards their powwow so they'll feel a little bit more comfortable as they move forward with it. I don't even know who is all on the powwow committee.
Jen, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say what Tom said about Arlene Adams, kind of had something written up since she was the one kind of presenting that day.
And so I think, if Greg will do what he's lined out, probably will all happen today, I imagine. And we should be in good contact with Rod by the end of the day.
So I just wanna make sure that, I guess, like the Elmo powwow and like the, or the 4th of July powwow, are you guys asking for a specific breakdown of that, like they do? That's a lot of work for them powwow committees. I know it is. I've been there. Is that what you're asking for? Because it's gonna take them a little while for kids to, put this down. Huh?
Arlene, when she came in, she had a sheet that had everything on there, and
Right.
then that's when they started asking for extra. Then they started saying they wanted to do the potato dance, and they started
Right.
adding all these
I've seen
extra
that.
specials. So she had it written down, so I told Greg, and Greg is going to speak with Arlene and Rod.
Okay, so they didn't bring that in? They didn't bring anything in with them when they came in? I'm assuming they didn't bring anything in.
Well, as they've said, Arlene brought that in, but then all of a sudden it changed right in front of our eyes. And that, we ended up with 3 different numbers jumping out at us and,
Doubled and then tripled.
yeah.
What's that?
Doubled and then tripled while they were here.
And so we were asking, well, go to the corporations, find what you can get, and then tell us what you need. And, we never said we wouldn't support it at whatever level. We just wanted to know. Go ahead, Martin.
And also, Mike, this has always been a social powwow, right?
Yeah,
They're making this into a contest powwow.
this time they are because
So,
it's the
so that,
50th.
that's, you understand that, like, that makes the level of difficulty twice as hard, like you just said.
Yeah.
That, that require, and so in order to do that, again, I get back to this, even if we did the powwow from 7 to midnight, because it's Tribal Friday,
Right,
we would get more people there. If you pay every category, there's gonna have maybe 1 or 2 dancers in each category. Like, if we have the grand entry at 4 o'clock, like, again, like, if we're gonna go do something, let's go big and make it a big event. And that's
I
the
can let
money,
them know, I'm all for that.
that's the money they're asking for, right? So,
Martin, I'm all for that. I mean,
so yeah, like, we support it, but we can't just say, here's $20,000 and do it what you may. Like, even to pull that much cash out of a bank is a process. Like, so I assume if you're doing cash payouts, that's a process that we gotta get started. I mean,
Okay,
it
so-
is, these powwows have evolved, contest powwows have evolved into the big beast of red tape and all this. If you just do a social powwow, easy, right? But adding all these contests on adds time, adds all these other things, adds hurt feelings because you had 2 dancers and one of them got second. So
Jen,
okay, so
I
I'm gonna
was gonna-
put Martin on the spot here then and say, what are you gonna what are you gonna pay me to get in and make it a whole 2-day powwow?
So,
Jen's got the floor.
okay, so since we're all in agreement here, can we put this for the end of the afternoon to give Greg time to get this and for Rodney and Arlene to be here? And then we go back on the agenda schedule?
That
So
sounds
if we
good.
have them all come back about 2:30,
That sounds good.
Have them come back at 2:30?
Yes.
Okay. That'll help me. Martin, I want an answer. What are you gonna, that was a change right
I
there.
got a donut back here, man. That's
Okay.
all I can offer you, some coffee,
Oh, I got a half
snack.
a Tim's yet. If it's Alrighty, well, thanks for your time and listening.
And thanks for bringing that in. like,
Yeah, and I invite each and every one of you guys, if you guys can come over and make a presence. Like I said, I think this is a pretty big thing for our youth, our past students and a lot of the alumni that I know that are working here with the tribe. Some go elsewhere to work, but they have graduated out of Two-Eagle. I was looking, oh, Tom, now I'm gonna put you on the spot. Something just popped up. I was noticing on the SKC poster, all the school, high school graduating schools on the reservation are being honored at the SKC powwow, but nowhere on there does it show Two-Eagle. Why is that? That's their neighbor. They should be advocating. They're not on that poster. All the other schools are.
We'll find out why. We will check into that.
I have
Mike.
no idea, Mike, but, you know, I'm not their favorite person right now, so,
That's why I said
Me and Len.
putting you on the spot. Alrighty, again,
There'll be one
thanks a
more of
lot,
my
appreciate
grievances.
it. I just kind of put Rod on the spot now too, because gotta be back here at 2:30. 2:30? Okay.
I could do
There
my
you go.
legal.
Okay. Martin, were you needing to have yours right away? No? And Carol? Okay. Tara, come on up.
Good morning, Tribal Council, Mr. Chair. I'm on page 3, it looks like. My request is a business request from the Flathead Raft Company. This would be a 5-year business lease in the exact same location that they are at. Obviously, we were optioned for approval of 5-year lease with rent would go up to 500. With a payment of 1,560 for the month of July and August. And that is for the overflow of parking and things like that with the buses that come in and out. And then insurance, and then their bond would be at 3,000.
Good, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Because they have 2 documents with us. One is their group use permit for floating the river, and that's a term contract, group use contract. That doesn't expire until June 28th, 2025. I would just make the motion that we extend this rental of the lot to match with the term of their general business operation permit, which expires on June 28th, 2025.
Okay. Get back with.
So that way they're together at the same time period.
Go ahead, James.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, the only concern I have is, when we had the last election, different candidates had put their signs out there and, it's not a regular season when they're operating and the signs were continually being taken down. And so I think there needs to be some sort of understanding with the lessee there that, when it's election time for, there might be signs out there and usually in the winter time when they're not operating. So I think that might need to be clarified with them that, because it's been in a campaign posting site for years And this last election, I know I had some signs missing and other candidates had some signs missing. And it was my understanding it was the lessee that was taking those signs down. So anyway, just my comment. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, James, and you are correct. I did have a meeting with them in regards to specifically that. They had written into their policies that they wouldn't have any things that have to do with political stuff. They didn't understand that that actually is you guys approving them. This is a tribal election, not, United States election. So they are fixing that. So in future, yes, they entertain, you guys can put signs on. They will gladly come in. They said to explain their side of it, that it was a policy that they had written. They just didn't take that into factor because they're only on year 2 at this point. So they apologize, but yeah, I'll let them know to maybe even come in and apologize to you guys face to face.
Yeah, thank you.
Other thoughts, questions? Motion by Martin. The one question I have. What's that? Oh, that's right. The one question I have is what are the fair market rental values these days, given everything else in the world is shot up
Right.
double what it used to be?
We have that in place right now. At this point, we have a lot of appraisals ahead of our fair market value to get this one done. This is on our radar right now. So what that means is once we get this completed, a modification will probably happen, which I'll come in and get that approved. This is set to expire, and so I didn't want to hold it up from trying to get this lease at least going. So before it was about $458.34. So what we decided is that in fairness of just getting it at least up a little bit, we put it at $500 until we get that fair market value. We have it right now in the process of getting it done. I don't have a time frame, but we will be bringing it back for a modification.
And need to clarify, Tom's motion is to continue with the $458.34 a month?
It was their preferred option, but only to have it for 13 months.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
A motion by Tom to accept option 1 for the next 13 months.
Expired June 28, 2025.
Second by Martin. All in favor? Unanimous. Go ahead, Len.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. So Tara, in regards to that specific site, I know that woodcutters use that site to sell the firewood, and they have to pay $25 for their permit to park there. And it was
15.
How much?
15.
$15. Okay.
Now, if they're non-members, it's 25.
Okay, but it was also brought to my attention that during the weekends, there are people that utilize that site without a permit. And
Just depends.
I don't want to get into any specifics. That's just what I was told by some of the other members that purchase permits.
So what had happened, I know what
have
you're,
observed other people utilizing that, selling it. I would like to suggest for tribal lands, for our membership, to look at assessing a 1-year permit for the membership at just at one minimal cost for allow the members to use that, because you know what, when they sell firewood, they don't really make that much, right? And I just think that we need to try to help those folks as much as we can. And so I just wanted to throw that out there. If you could come up with some options for us to look at on doing a one-time cost for a yearly permit. Just a thought.
okay, thank you for that. Yeah, also I like that suggestion. The hard part is it's already a free use permit. The $15 is the admin fee, which, unfortunately today costs are up, so they actually have a free use. Non-members is $25 a day. I don't know how else we could cut costs, that it's a free use permit. What had happened, I know what you're talking about, is they didn't have their permit out front. And the guy that normally goes there was upset because he didn't get to have that spot. But now we've corrected that. Me and Louis had made sure that anybody that comes in with this short permit, that is a 14-day permit at the most, that they make sure and have that up front. So that way, if anybody does come across, because we have lots of people that check it out every weekends and days to make sure that they are in compliance. So that was what happened there, and we did get it all
Maybe
cleared
to
up.
solve that, we just have Louis show up there every Saturday and Sunday morning.
Actually, I've done it. I honestly, and I think even my mom has. So yeah, it's simple little things, but thank you, Lynn. I will definitely see what else we can do, but thank you.
Thank you, Tara.
Okay, all right. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
Evan. Welcome. Good morning.
We are on page 4. All right, I'll make this really quick and simple for you. Good morning, Chairman and Tribal Council. As Tom said, I'm the water guy, or the new water coordinator for the tribes here. So we have had a couple years ago, an incompliance with a salvage yard, and EPA kind of checked out an unofficial just walkthrough, and it found that it was greatly jeopardizing our waters. So EPA is asking for approval to use some access on tribal lands to get onto this property, to crunch up the cars and remove them the property. So this is just a simple request, just for access for EPA to come in and basically protect our tribal quality water standards.
Any comments? Tom?
Just, they're gonna go across that tribally owned bridge?
Yes, the other bridge that was on that property was washed out, so they needed some access on the other side.
Is there a weight limit for our bridge or any consideration for
Um,
breaking that bridge with a heavy load of steel?
They will probably just use the loader to grab it and then bring it over to the cruncher and then throw it on these.
So the weight limit would be a loader?
Minimum.
With the truck, with the car on it? Okay. But has anybody inspected that bridge, Evan?
No, not that I know of.
I want to have someone look at the bridge and make sure that they'll take a loader weight. It needs to pass a 10-ton limit. Otherwise, I would make the motion to approve this pending the ability of the bridge to be able to handle the equipment as proposed.
And EPA goes through all standards to protect the water, so they wouldn't just test it themselves. They will definitely make sure that everything that they use will not jeopardize any waters.
So does your motion include the use after the test? Martin? Do you have something? Oh, okay. Second by Martin. All in favor? Dang. Let's see Danielle. There she is. Unanimous.
All right, thank you, Tribal Council.
Good morning. In from outside. Okay. Yahani Washday Mitakiapi. My name is Stephanie Iron Shooter. I am Sichangu and Aani. My dad is from the Rosebud Sioux tribe in South Dakota, and my mom is from the Fort Belknap Indian Reservation here in Montana. I am the Office of American Indian Health Director for DPHHS, and I am here to present to you, as the tribes requested,
on a biannual basis, like regular. So this is my first visit to you as the Office of American Indian Health Director in this capacity. I've been here many times before, just in other roles. And I'm just here to update you on everything that's happening around the department, around health and its intersection with the tribe here. I handed out, or Jennifer handed out a folder here, and I'd like to just kind of quickly go over it with you, and then we can go into dialogue or questions that you might have. Just real high level stuff. Okay, so if you open up your packet on the left-hand side, I will update you on this first because I know it's been something of an sort of an issue with the Office of American Indian Health and the retirement of the Tribal Relations Manager last October. There's been a lot of reorganization around the Indian health priorities of the department. If you look on the left-hand side, you'll see our most recent org chart. If you open it up, formerly, the Office of American Indian Health and Tribal Relations Manager position were, actually, the Tribal Relations Manager was in the purple area, and my office was in the blue area. But if you notice, my office now is down in the green area, down on the left there. And again, on your left-hand side, there's this smaller, kind of larger org chart, which my boss asked me to go ahead and put that in there so that I can illustrate to you my office and the expansion of it with 2 people and my direct connection, as you see in the arrow there, to the director of the department. And just to illustrate that for you, that although it's moved down into the green area, that I will still have direct connection with the director at any time and at your request at any time. So I just want to just iterate that to you. And just you know, if you have any questions about that, we can talk about it now. Yes, sir.
Stephanie, thank you. I appreciate that. And I know one of the issues came up that we know that at the time you have direct communications with your director, okay? Well, our goal was we wanted direct communication with the governor, okay? And that was the relationship that we've had previously before they changed the org chart. So once again, it appears that the state administration is reorganizing, and I see the Office of American Indian Health going down the org chart. Unacceptable again. And I don't want to kill a messenger, okay? So the director needs to be there telling us. He needs to come in here. He needs to be explaining to us why they made that decision, how they justify that decision, because all of the Montana tribes back in 2022 or 2021, we fought hard for that. And there was a lot of contention that came from those meetings. And so the Giaforte administration, they're just not getting it. When it comes to Indian Health Services, we tell them we provide all of the data to them, and they're still responding to us in a very disrespectful manner. And I would expect that at some point in time, Stephanie, that you ask your supervisor to also come and provide these reports with you, because he needs to answer to the tribes, as with the governor. So anyway, that was my message at tribal leaders meeting, and that'll be my message today. So thank you.
May I?
Go ahead.
Councilman Two Teeth, I just wanted to kind of ask you to, on the record, request something tangible. for the director. I mean, he would come here. But what do you really want him to do? Thank you.
Carol?
Yeah, I just want to say, we did, go to a meeting, me and Patricia and Jennifer Finley in, Great Falls, University of Providence. And I thought the director was, pretty upfront on how the whole thing came down. But of course, there were some tribal leaders there, but not, Len wasn't there and a few others. And so I think it probably would be a good idea if, Director from Brereton came to the meeting, and then, then after we hear from him, and then if we feel we need to talk to the governor again, then we can. But I think you're, spot on to have him come here, address us. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions about that piece? I have several more things, so.
I think you can go ahead, Stephanie.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, continuing on the left side of your packet is just some real general information about contact information for the tribal health departments, Indian Health Service, tribal health, and the other tribal governments. So these are updated regularly in my office with the help of Karen Seck in the director's office. She's very helpful to me and just updating these. If there's a, an election or somebody resigns or something like that, then I'll update that and make sure that our whole department is aware of it and that people are, doing things right. Like Mr. Dolson, I apologize profusely. When you got elected, I neglected to change it in a timely manner. And a letter went out to the former chairman. And then but I thank God we were able to fix that before it went out again. So thank you very much for that. Okay, so the next thing on my list is in your packets on the right-hand side is the Medicaid revenue report for the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes. Now, I have to admit, and I'm totally being honest with you right now, I read it, I understand it, but I'm not sure if I can answer any questions per line item other than maybe WIC. But the rest of it, I can't tell you why it's up or down or anything like that right now. However, just so you know, following, I believe it's next week, Casey Peck will be here. So she is actually, and I really depend on her a lot for helping educate me around the Medicaid topic. So she'll be here next week, and I'm not pushing it off on her, but I'm just letting you know, if you have questions, I can certainly write them down and send them to her and or our interim Medicaid director. As you all know, that Mike Randall has resigned his position as the Medicaid director with the department. And the interim will be Rebecca DeCamera, who is the Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities Division Administrator, until they can hire someone to replace Mike. Okay, all right. All right, so if you do come up with any questions, please just let me know and I'll pass them along as best as I can. I appreciate it. Thank you for your patience with me till I can really get up to speed with the Medicaid revenue. The next item for me to report out to you is regarding House Bill 872, the behavioral health systems improvement funding that came out of the legislature this past session to the tune of $300 million to be spent and allocated over between this biennium and 2 additional biennium from the one we're in. And right now within the biennium that we're in, we presented to the tribes on March 5th and the tribal health directors, and that's what Councilwoman Langford referred to. On May 5th, we presented and each tribe was able to present high level what their needs are around behavioral health and developmental disabilities. It was a very good meeting. I mean, I think it was a time like the Director Brereton was able to really kind of get to know some of the tribes and tribal health directors, which I really appreciated him. He is on the commission alongside other legislators that there's about, I think, 9 of them on the commission. So they all reported out. We went back to the table, and what we did was we came up with alongside Patricia Hibbler and Joel Rosette, who is the Rocky Boat Health Center director and American Indian Health Leader chair. We went over kind of like the process, because honestly, to be totally honest with you, that is such a hefty, huge, gigantic thing that the department and the state is doing around behavioral health that, gee, we really had to really get help from the tribes to say, how do you want this to be laid out? How, you know, what kind of questions do you have? And how can it be the most beneficial to you? So we came up with a template, just a real small template, like a page or two long, and a budget at the bottom and some justification around how each tribe and urban Indian organization would like to allocate the funding to the tune of, we put the ceiling just in general at $500,000 per tribe and per urban. So each tribe and, you know, the tribal health directors and the urban Indian organization CEOs and executive directors put in a proposal that was due this past Friday, the 3rd, and everyone got it in. And so now we're in the process of reviewing them. And we'd like to invite any of you, and I believe I sent out an invitation to Patty and Mr. Durglow and also Carol and Jennifer and the other two that were with you, Carol, over there in Great Falls, to come on May 20th. If you're able, between 12 and, actually, I think the NTIs for the tribes is first. So I'm gonna say like around 9 or 10, or excuse me, like around noon or 1 o'clock on the 20th. So if you can come, any one of you can come, anyone that you want to assign to come, to really speak for the tribe on that particular proposal and really try to explain to the commission, as I know Councilwoman Langford and Patty here were there and with the commission, and they do require a lot of education around how tribes work and the kind of things that are priorities to us on the reservations and in the urban Indian organizations. So I'd really encourage you to send someone. I'll be there in person, and Joel will also be there alongside me, and anyone else that you would like to send. I'd really appreciate the support with that. Okay, do you have any questions about House Bill 872?
Man, at that meeting that we went to in Great Falls, it was very apparent that those guys definitely don't understand how tribes work. They didn't even know terms like 638 and I mean, things that are just very casual to us. So yeah, it's definitely a learning curve, but I think it opened their eyes. Was there ever a response out on our request? I mean, I think we requested money for the treatment center, and is that going to be out soon?
So the near-term initiatives, what we were talking about, that was due on the 3rd, definitely, we did get that. And actually, I do want to visit Patty today sometime to talk about the proposal. So there's some things, just so you know, that, you know, the commission is going to frown on, and there's no tribal membership on the commission. So some of the things that they're kind of encouraging us not to advocate for is FTE, which is interesting, right? And yeah, like that's kind of normal. I mean, how are you going to sustain it? What are you going to do? You know, so we're not going back to the drawing table. I think every NTI that we presented on Monday to the director was digestible and doable. So I don't think there was a hard no on any of them, except for maybe one. But the rest of them were, you know, let's go back to the talk with the health directors and the folks that we need to kind of rearrange some money within the request. But other than that, I feel like they've all been received. Now, as far as the treatment center and Red Shield 8 Nation, that was one that I believe the commission is still a little bit up in the air about, meaning that as far as, I mean, I talked with Joel about this too, Patty. So I'm like, shovel ready, you know, cutting the ribbon. How is that going to work? And it looks like 2027. So we're looking more toward that as a long-term initiative, Councilwoman Lakeford. And in other words, not sure how that's going to look for the short term, but the long term for sure is definitely an investment that I believe the commissioners do want to make. So, and I don't know about the amounts, but I do know that that's kind of what's the discussion we had on Monday around that. Okay.
Go ahead, Patty.
So just for a point of clarification, we did submit a proposal from CSKT Tribal Health, Joe and his staff put together a proposal as you had approved to be submitted. So that was submitted last Friday, along with the proposal for Red Shield 8 Nations, which is the statewide treatment center. So those two proposals have been submitted, as Stephanie has said, but just to clarify, Stephanie, May 20th, at that particular meeting is when we can come and discuss those proposals and really clarify what's in them and answer questions. Is that correct?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I apologize for any confusion. So on the 20th, it's really about selling it big picture to the commission. So we're taking each proposal that the tribe submitted and that the UIO submitted, and we're making one near-term initiative. So like if you look on the website, there's all these initiatives. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can't remember how many there are now. So number 7 will be tribal and urban NTIs. Okay, you click on that. There's going to be a drop-down menu on what each tribe got based on what they requested. And then, of course, the TA that comes along with it. In between now and the 20th, we'll work on some TA around that. But if they approve even just the ask, the big, overarching ask of each tribe and urban, then we can move forward with the RFP process. And then that's where all your details going to come. I mean, like even more, like line by line, like how are you going to sustain it? If it's building up your workforce or whatever it is, each tribe is different on what they proposed. So yeah, so we'll come to you after the 20th, but on the 20th, it's really just to support big picture. These are what the tribes need. This is what the tribes and urbans need. This is what we need from our perspective to really sell it to the commission. Good. Any other questions about House Bill 872?
I think you can proceed.
All right, thank you. All right, so the next thing is on my list is the Office of American Indian Health updates. Now, I did update you on the org chart, but also there are 2 job descriptions that are expanding the Office of American Indian Health. What we did was we took the Tribal Relations Manager line item and basically repurposed it and developed a job description based on input from all the tribes that were at the March 5th meeting on March 6th. So you all got a chance to talk about what your need is. And of course, the need, big picture, is 6. I think it was you, was it you, Patty, or Carol? Somebody referenced that if we really wanted to do a really good job with the Office of American Indian Health, we'd have to have at least six people. Okay, so that being said, just know that that's in my mind, and that's a goal. That's a goal, okay, of my office. But right now, funding wise, we have enough for 2 positions. One of them is really the only way I could describe it, and I sent the job descriptions to you all to take a look at and review and approve. But really, it came from you all. Basically, it's basically a mini me that would come and do, I would be the main contact. So I'll be your single point of contact for the director's office. But that person would also do like, just, I mean, there needs to be like regional me's, you know what I mean? I mean, there really does. Or for each tribe, the tribe should have their own, you know what I mean, that we fund or whatever. So, but anyway, the 2 jobs are, one is a mini-me, like I said, and the other one, they wanted it around policy development, Medicaid education, like really understanding Medicaid and what that's all about for the tribes, what it means. And then the second one is a child welfare position. So what we did was we took the ICWA specialist position from DPHHS and the Child and Family Services Division, and we rewrote it based on your recommendations. So it still has ICWA for sure. We're not, definitely ICWA is in it, the training and everything, that's still in it, but we expanded it just a little bit to make it more flexible as far as helping build systems around the child welfare system in the state and how it interacts and intersects with the tribal social system or the child welfare system. So it's really cool. I really like the job descriptions, and I hope you all do, and that we can start recruiting hopefully in the next couple weeks, I hope. So that's kind of the update on that. Any questions on those two positions? All right, so now I'm going, then the next thing that I'll introduce to you is this project that we, and I'm sorry I didn't put it in the packet. I can certainly make copies or give a copy to Jennifer to make copies for you. But this is something that, why we're here this week too, is not only to present to you, but also to film the Confederate Salish and Kootenai people and visit with them on how their own health is, past, present, and future. This project is called Caring for Indigenous Montanans. And back, I think it was last winter, like in January last year, I was able to access a little bit of funding to really launch this project. And we contracted with the Montana Office of Rural Health Area Health Education Center. Kaylin, oh my God, I forgot her last name, Kaylin and Grace Barons. And then our cinematographer who's doing all the filming is a film student out of MSU Bozeman, and that's Lex back there. And so he's been coming around with us to every reservation to do filming for this project, like individual interviews, B-roll footage, landscape, like these, just everything. It's been an awesome journey, since last year to be able to do it. And just so you know, we did go through the correct process with CSKT, and we did get IRB approval to proceed with this. Yep. I think we do have, I thought we had one more thing to do, and I'll talk with Patty about that later. But so we were out in Elmo yesterday filming the Kootenai Culture Committee. We did the Salish Culture Committee last summer. And then now today we're posted up here in the conference room and would really invite any of you please to do an interview. It'll only take, honestly, it's about how much you want to say, but it's really about your own health and the tribe. You as a tribal member, how was health for you, and so that it's out there for non-native people who want to come onto our reservations or want to serve our people so that they can understand us better. Kind of like, how the commissioners had no idea, how anything, how our world is. And this is what I really want to share with all of Montana. I want them to understand us as the best people, not just as our health disparities. And that's what I keep hearing, and it's really bothering me. So I really want to get this out. It's so beautiful. Oh my gosh, I've already seen some of it, and it's so beautiful. Our people are the best people on the planet, and I'm so proud of it. But today is our last day of filming, and now we're gonna Lex will put it all together, and then we'll be able to come back to you and actually showcase it to you for each tribe. So any questions on that?
Go ahead, Patty.
My own personal opinion, but I think it would be great if council could actually film and talk about what their vision is for health for CSKT, for our tribal members. What is your vision moving forward? That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Carol, are you gonna come in there after? Yay.
Sure, I volunteer Carol for that A role, and then
All right.
the rest of us could be, yeah, radio.
Yes, exactly. So just so you know, just on that point, is that we are going to show it to, we're going to send the draft to Patty and, to all of you to say, there might be things in there that you'll say, ooh, take that out, or no, we don't want that in there, or whatever it is. We actually did that, so you all know your own people. So anyone can walk in the door right now. And honestly, we wouldn't tell them no just because we don't have that kind of authority here on your reservation. So we did that in a different community. And this guy comes in and boy, he was all dressed up, and he did an interview. And then later on, I went to council and they said, cut him out right now. And I was like, whoa, okay, yes. And I didn't know. I don't know. I didn't know the deal with this gentleman. They nominated you. Did you not see that just now? All right, I'll have copies made here and then pass it out to you guys. I'm sorry, I should have made copies for you. Okay, and we'll be here all day in the conference room, and there's snacks in there and water. We have Dr. He's a Australian doctor, Jeff. Somebody coming at 11 for our first interview. So 11:30. I don't remember. Okay. All right. Cool. All right. All right. So the next thing is in your packet is an agenda for next week. And Patty's aware of it. And who's your WIC people anyway? Or your SNAP people? I think we answered that already. Oh yeah, okay.
So in regards to the SNAP consult, I'll go ahead and jump in for that. You've all received this information. It's been out for a while. We have made arrangements for 2 staff members to attend the consult. That will be Patricia Corshane from DHRD Department Head and Natalie Kenmill, who also oversees commodities. So they'll be attending the SNAP consult and bringing back key information for CSKT.
Thank you. Any questions about that? Okay. All right. So the next thing now, I think I need to go deeper into this, but I wanted to visit with you and was hoping to be more ready for the maternal child health needs assessment that the department is doing. It's every 5-year process. So I'm going to visit with Patty and Joe about bringing forth to you later on, how do you want us to engage the tribe around stuff like this, like needs assessments every other year, every 5 years, every 3 years. The state, and I'm talking about the state, has to do some kind of assessment for something. So I got the maternal child health needs assessment that's in the hopper right now. I saw a behavioral health one that's coming up, and they have not engaged the tribes yet around that, as in the program people. So I'll visit with Patty and Joe and be better prepared maybe to come forward to you to ask you what kind of process that we should be using at the department. And I know that's kind of in the weeds, but that's where I need to go for the divisions to really understand where the tribes are coming from and how their processes work, because they don't know. They think they could just come and set up a table out here and start doing surveys. You know what I'm saying? And it's interesting to me. So I'll work with Patty more on that. So any questions about that? The assessments? Okay. The next thing is in your packet is kind of in the spirit of data. So that's a big part of my role as the Office of American Indian Health Director, is really to tighten the flow or create a bridge between state and tribal data. And honestly, it's a huge undertaking and not sure how that's going to look, but I just want you to know that I am working on it. And there's a lot of things that are up in the air right now, like IRBs, data sharing agreements. I mean, the Rocky Mountain Tribal Epidemiology Center. I mean, how often do you all use that? Do you use it? How does that work? You know, there's a lot of questions that I have, again, that I'll work out with Patty and her team. So, but I just wanted to let you know that this is my first attempt at showing the data and the health disparities, because that's what my office is charged with looking at. So the first 2 pages, actually the first page and partly into the second page is the data, right? The 16-year mortality rate between, white men and Indian men, and white women and Indian women. So there's still that giant disparity between our people and mortality. However, on the 3rd page, this is what I really wanted to highlight and help balance out with our tribal, not even necessarily data as quantitative, but qualitative data around how we use our culture and our way of life. And like, we have our own health. Like yesterday, you're going to see it yourself from the interviews yesterday. It was so interesting yesterday. The culture committees, the way they talked about health is not the same language as the department. So I really want to be a good translator so that I'm not, I don't want to make us look bad, but that's a lot of times what the people see when they see those big health disparities, is that's how they identify us. And my job is to make that, change that around and balance that out a little bit better. So, and I'm very determined to do that. So, just know that.
Looks like we have a question. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was going to say, Stephanie, the reason you had to cut that guy out is because he was wearing a Cowboys jersey.
Oh,
Just kidding.
that's
Just
kind of
kidding.
mean. Thank you, though.
Just teasing.
Oh my God, it's, okay. I think that is all I have. Now I can open it up. I'm sorry, that was a lot to questions. If you have any questions or clarifications on anything I presented.
Any questions for Stephanie? Well, thank you. Joe's got a question.
Not a question, but just a comment. I had intended to come and listen primarily, but since Stephanie is new, maybe I'll share this. I think it goes back to something Len said, and maybe the message I would hope Stephanie could bring back is a message about what true consultation is. So the tribe should be involved very early in the process about these conversations and what efforts they bring out to us. So rather than asking us questions about efforts, really ask us about what's important to us, what efforts we see as a priority here in CSKT. So really, I think it's maybe a message of really understanding true consultation with the tribes and challenging the state to follow that process.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah.
And thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you so much.
Is there an actual consultation policy? Patricia probably has it, so I'll just get it from you. Thank you.
And I can share it with all of you.
So-
PHHS has their own consultation.
May I, Mr. Chair?
Definitely.
So, we definitely do, and it's in alignment with the, administrative rule from the state administrative rules of Montana. And just so you know, I mean, I did a little bit of research a couple years ago when I first got this position. And so, yes, there is definitely there is one in the department. But, I am determined to make it more robust and more in alignment with what Mr. Durglow had shared, is that I'm not really sure, like, say, for instance, the SNAP consultation. I read through it, I worked on it with them, for next week, and I'm like, okay, so what are they consulting about? What exactly are they gonna have input on here? Is it, I don't understand. So are you just giving information? Are you just updating them on who gets what, when, and how? Or do they really, honest to God, have a say on if this particular thing, like say a change in the SNAP benefit amount or whatever, let's just pretend it's that, per member. What if that changed? Do they get a say? And if that dollar stays at $1 or $2 or 50 cents, you know what I mean? And to be totally honest with you, looking at the agenda, it's more of a one-way in this particular instance. The tribes do get to say what they, they can say whatever they want. But honestly, to change something in this particular consultation next week, not sure if it even matters. And what I mean by that is, you got the ABOD people, you got people who, like for instance, Rocky Boy got taken off of the waiver to continue to get SNAP benefits for people who didn't have children, able-bodied adults. So they do some kind of deal to make sure they get the right people, the right tribes, if they qualify. And so if they don't, Rocky Boy came and said, why not? What numbers are you using? Why? And they said it. They said it last year, and I was like, okay, so can you answer Rocky Boy and tell them why or what's going, and so they did, but they didn't like the answer. And they said, well, we need to change that. We need to get back on at the waiver. You used the wrong numbers. This is, you know what I'm saying? So behind the scenes, I really want to be a good advocate for the tribes. So and it didn't change. It's gonna this year, just because of the numbers, but it didn't change last year. Just so you know.
Consultation normally will include, funding, more funding, policy, regulations, rules, changes, that kind of thing. And I can't think of anything else that it would include, but definitely those things is what usually comes in consultation.
Right. And as you know, a lot of the federal funding that comes through the state, it's federal funding, and they're the pass-through, and which is, I don't know, I'm just really trying to wrap my head around this, because when I think about consultation, I think about a back and forth and a negotiation type situation. Anyway, and maybe I'm naive, but I will continue to do my research and educate myself too.
And Stephanie, maybe I'm naive, but we would like our funding coming directly from the feds rather than through the state and anybody taking any little piece out. Then we get more funding, but it's no disrespect to the state. That's just what we would prefer, so.
Definitely. I agree. I hope to not, because of 638 or because you all are taking over your own programming, I would rather not have this job. I would rather you all had that. I mean, that's a dream for me. It's been for 30 years. So I hope that comes to fruition. So, all right. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Okay.
Have a good, go ahead.
So currently, the tribes do not administer SNAP benefits for their members. Is that how that works, Patty?
That's correct. Currently, tribes cannot contract for SNAP benefits. It's not in the federal law. We've been lobbying for that and asking for that. Tribes cannot contract directly. What Stephanie's talking about in relation to Rocky Boy is a relationship between that county and Rocky Boy for what services for SNAP, but we cannot administer
Okay.
the program ourselves.
And it's not in the law.
It is not.
Okay, so is that an issue that we need to bring forward next week?
It's a federal issue that we need to continue to lobby for.
Okay,
It's
but
not state.
we can put them on notice that this is our intent and this is what we plan on doing.
Correct.
So I would suggest that we send that message to next week's meeting and let them know that we want to start that process.
Yeah.
So we will lobby to start that process.
It's also part of the challenge that Martin's taken to DC, the 21st.
I mean, if you want, I can tell you all the federal programs that pass through the department, like this, same way. I mean, sure, you all get a task order, right, for different service. When realistically, it should just be coming directly to you rather than coming through us to administer it. And that's, again, like I said, I might be naive and I don't know all the politics and the ins and outs about it, but I know what I see, and it's just interesting to me. So just so you know, I'm there in those rooms listening and thinking about these things in a very tribal way. And I just want you to know that I do that.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you. And we'll be filming. He's going to film. Can he film with you guys talking without audio? Like, just keep going and then he'll film you real quick.
I think we'll be an executive and we won't have filming in executive.
Can we come back later?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We'll come in when you're not.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Do we have an issue with law enforcement?
They're with legal.
Okay, we're gonna take a short break here. Okay, going out of regular into executive. And we'll take 5 minutes.
Oh, it's a coin flip between John and I.
Good afternoon, everyone. Got a couple of task orders here before you today. Task order 107, it's improvements for our Lee Powwow grounds. I think there are 9 task areas, specific separate task areas. In this task order in and of itself, second one, we'll do this one first, but the second one is 108, Elmo Powwow grounds improvements, scheduled over the next couple of months in time for this year's celebration at each location.
Sounds good. Any questions? Everybody look over the task orders. So task order 107, value 230,652.
662,
6,
kind of a wonky 6 there, that second 6. Kind of cut off a little bit. Sorry about that.
It'll be 662. Yeah, everybody see the scope of work that's gonna be done? Like Dan said, what, 9 things you said were on 107?
I think we've got 9 on Arlee and then 7 on Elmo, separate task areas. Separate items to be worked on, multiple vendors.
Yeah.
That's the goal. Again, 107 is Arlee, then we'll get to 108 Elmo after this one. We do have that roof that you'd addressed last time, being in terms of that roof on the dance pavilion. I mean, you'd mentioned that couple meetings ago, I guess. And then just getting a little more aggressive with the application that we're putting on that, with a 10-year warranty, I think. In terms of fixing those, give us time to build a new one, right? Yep, asking for approval for 107 first and then 108 subsequently.
Entertain a motion for 107. Motion by Tom, second by Carol. All in favor? Go ahead, Len.
And I asked this question a couple times before too, but, so do we have somebody that after the project is done, they go in and inspect it, making sure that it's complying with what we want? And not only that, do these construction contractors have warranties? Like something goes wrong a year later, they're gonna come back?
Yeah, most of the work we do have warranty. In fact, the roofing that we just talked about is a 10-year warranty. So we're making sure that that's in place. And then in terms of closeout sign off, of course, we have the vendor, we have John. John needs to be satisfied with the job before we make final payment and final closeout on anything. So, and then of course, our project managers, John, subcontractors, and then a lot of times, department heads within that we're working with as well.
Okay, how does that work? They pay 50% up front and then
Materials, we will pay up front, but it's performance based in terms of period performance based. They don't get paid unless they do the job. And we'll schedule that out in agreement with John and Gwen, and then, ourselves and then the subcontractor.
Okay, thank you.
Leonard has a question, and Bing and Martin.
Good afternoon, council. I just want to make a few comments for the Elmo celebration grounds.
Leonard, can we hold that until we do the Elmo one?
Pardon?
We're working on the Arlie one right now.
Oh,
Can we hold
okay.
it until the Elmo one?
All right, yeah, I can wait. I didn't hear you, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
It'll just be a second. Bing?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was looking at your task order here for your electrical work up there. see you're gonna do with bathrooms and whatnot. Last year, people were getting the hell shocked out of them last year when they were taking showers up there and stuff. And is there gonna be, somebody go in there and check that so the people won't be getting shocked in there anymore? Cause they really they run them out of there, shocked when they go take a shower in there last year.
Was that last year or
Yeah.
the year before?
Last
'Cause
year.
The year before, I knew, and we did have the electrician go in last year.
Yeah, they're doing it again last year too.
Yep, I guess we'll look at that then. Bathroom is on there. Okay, yep. Martin?
So the work, you have this 7/7 is like your kind of end date. The powwow starts the 30th. So I know last year we ran into time crunches. I really hope we have some contingency plans for that, or, you know, as Len always talks about, things in the contract if they don't finish the work. Because we've been here before. You know, the last few years we've been here in this exact same spot, and it's like, we got 2 months and a lot of work needs to be done, and yeah, let's get it done this year.
Go ahead, Ned.
That's a great observation. I made the same observation and asked the same question, like, wait. We want this done by 6:30 or 6:15 with a little bit of wiggle room. And one of my project managers made a great point that we want to be available if things come up. We certainly want it done before the start of powwow, and if not, perhaps a couple of weeks before powwow comes up. But if there are things that come up through the powwow, through the conclusion of the powwow, we want to be available and ready to answer any of those questions or address those needs that do come up. So, yep, thanks for that observation.
So, and I know we mentioned that last year too, Dan. So did we ever add penalty clauses in those contracts in case, for whatever reason, the contractor cannot meet the deadline?
Contract here.
Yeah, that's what we've got right now. We don't have penalty clauses within like subcontracts, but if they don't get it done, they don't get paid. So that's why scheduled payments over the period of performance. And we have to be satisfied at each stage of that period of performance and the work they've done up to that point, or they don't get payment.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One more question. Len's always asking this question too. We're gonna have people there during a powwow. If there's a problem, we can call for them to come and fix these problems.
That's kind of a gray area. I mean, we always seem to have people there. But it's not, IDC funded. So, I mean, I think it's under lands now. I think housing does the water now. I know when Sonny was alive, he'd do it for, from the committee would pay him under the table. And he'd just camp out but we haven't had much trouble lately. I mean, because we've been working on it, and they usually call us anyway. We have a weekly on-call number, somebody on call every week, so with the same number. And that's who they usually get a hold of, so.
We did have problems up there last year with electrical. And my son-in-law, he's an electrician. He's the one that went out there and fixed that. And that's how I know there's no switch to those pedestals out there where the RVs hook up to turn that electricity off. And he was looking all over hell for a place to turn off the electricity to those pedestals so he could work on them. But he finally got him where he worked on them with them being live and there to get him hooked up so he could, they could use those pedestals.
Was that, put, when, project managers met with, committees, was that, brought up? Because if it is, it should be on the scope of work somewhere here.
I don't know. I wasn't there for that meeting,
Okay.
but, you know, I know he did because he was asking me if there were, yeah, I knew where the box was to shut those off. And I told him, no, I didn't. I said, we could go look in the restrooms, the shower rooms and stuff, but to see you there, because there are some good panels in there. I said, maybe they're on there, but there was nothing to shut them things off anywhere. So I wondering if, you know, what, that needs to probably be addressed too, to dig that line up to get into that main line for those pedestals, to have a control box to, you know, to where we can shut them off in case something like that happens again.
Okay, there should be a disconnect somewhere. I mean, I would have a hard time believing that Mission Valley Power would hook it up, would liven it up without a disconnect now. And we've had to do that at Kicking Horse where they said, well, we're not gonna shut it off. We'll shut it off, but we're not gonna turn it back on because you don't have a disconnect on your building. So they made us do that. And I would just imagine ones that, we'll look into it though. Pedestals are on electric task area 8 also.
I don't know who put those pedestals in there. Maybe Ruthie might know. Just get back there in time. Pardon? Yeah, way back when. I don't know who put them in there, you know, and whatnot, but, no, might not have somebody a contract to put them in there to begin with, you know, so you just put them in. But that's why I say there's nothing there. Gotta be power coming from one of them poles somewhere there to get the power there, you know, so. But there's nothing there to shut them off with.
Well, we got a motion and a second. All in favor? Unanimous. With all those considerations, unanimous. On to 108.
Push your mic button.
Sorry about that. Such a deep commanding voice, right? Y'all heard me without the mic, but I'm not quite that person.
I don't think Abby would give you those.
Shy and quiet. I want to be recorded. Okay, again, being in reference to meetings with POWA committees respectively, I think it was November, we had met with them individually. Project manager meets with them pretty regularly. I know that's probably been a 3-month, absent that sit down dinner meeting we had with them. I want to say it was November, late November. Regular back and forth contact communication with the chairs of each respective committee, and then consultation, coordination, communication with John and F&M, and then also the subcontractors over that period of time. And these are probably more involved than a lot of other projects we have. It's of course, solicitation and bids after we put out the RFPs. That was probably a month long, and then 2 months over the last 2 months. And some of you might be wondering why we're here in early May rather than early March. The last 3 months has kind of been that back and forth negotiations and pricing with the RFPs and the bids that have come in over the last couple of months, and multiple site visits, multiple conversations with each respective committee and committee chair, and then coordinating and being respectful of John's and F&M's budget in particular. And I need to bring up 108, don't I? Sorry, started talking and stopped scrolling. Anyway, in addition to other improvements that we've got going on at Elmo and the Elmo Powwow grounds, we have 108 before you here. That's Arlie there still. And again, at that November meeting, and forgive me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure it was November, we developed a list that's about this long and with cost about this much, and we just kind of tried to hone down and narrow in on those lists. It's a pretty exhaustive list, and many things over the course of multiple years that need to be addressed at each power grounds. This is kind of where we narrowed down the list in terms of this year in and of itself. Some of the items that aren't on the agreed to or suggested items aren't on here, but they are in the long term, more of a longer term consideration for improvements to both respective power grounds.
Leonard, you're up.
Thank you, Council. With John and SKMM in here today, they were going to ask for approval on this short list. I'm sure you guys can see it already. I've been trying to communicate with SKMM through this whole process. And through the months, I was told a lot of this couldn't be done. And so we kept bringing in a different list. We shorted it down. The last time I was in, almost 2 months ago now, talking to Kyle, and the things we need this year and the rest we can do without. The one thing I want to really push is we do need electricity for our craft vendors. The last few years, there's only one plug-in for all of our craft vendors out there. And so it makes it hard to sell spots when we can't get electricity to them. And when we do, we have cords running all over. It was one of my main concerns is I wanted to get that done. It was a 30 by 100 paved piece with electrical outlets on either side, 10 on either side. And I was talking with Dan earlier that some of the stuff that they're asking for approval today is that, you know, we can go without them because the things we need out there that I just mentioned are more important than what they have down here. So, you know, like the dust abatement, that's the rest of the road that goes around the power grounds. You know, we could cut that out and I don't know what they have budgeted for it, but that could be put towards the craft vendors part that we want in. The last list I gave to SKMM was the medical building, the craft vendor site, and just to, and the walrus tongue oil for the logs. You know, that pavilion's never been treated in the 30 years it's been out there. And it's starting to show, you know, that should be treated every year, you know, if not every 2 years. I brought in a quote. There's a company back east that sells that oil I was looking for. And when I brought it in back in January, they wanted $1,500 for 55 gallons. And today, or last week when I called them now, it's up to $2,750. You know, I was trying to get ahead of the price and buy things in the winter months when they're cheaper. But that's definitely, you know, we need that oil to oil those logs. All of the logs out there. So those three things are, you know, the main things that the committee wants to get done this year. That some of the stuff, and I was talking to John out there earlier, and he said, you know, they have agreements with the vendors that's going to do the work. And I told him, I totally get that, and I've been trying to communicate with SKMM because they're handling the work out there in Elmo. And so to me, there's not enough communication with the Elmo Powwow Committee on what our really needs are that we can, you know, do it this year and you know, limp along the next few years and try to get some of the other stuff we need. And so I'm in here today asking council that if you're gonna stay with what maintenance and SKMM is bringing in, I would like to add the craft vendor spot that we need over a lot of the stuff that's already been approved by John and these guys for other vendors to do the work. Because it's a bigger priority to have it set up for our craft vendors than some of the stuff that's on the list. And I've been trying to stay in touch with SKMM, and it just hasn't happened frequent enough, I guess. I have brought in 2, 3 different lists on what, we kept trimming things back that, this is what we'd like. So that's why I'm in here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Leonard. Martin?
How many additional, hookups would you need? And with that, I guess kind of to you and then to John, is that gonna require MVP? Is that gonna require another panel? What would that actually look like?
Well, for us last year, we didn't have enough electricity for all the vendors that wanted to come, so we could only take so many. And so that's what's eliminating us to get more vendors coming in, because we don't have electricity for them. When everybody's on one outlet, it's just not feasible. People have other things hooking up to for their craft vendors and stuff. What I was asking for was a total of 20 electrical outlets for our vendors, our craft vendors.
What's in the works, Dan? John? Is there something for the vendors?
Not right now in terms of the craft vendors. There's the concession stands, and then straight across from the concession stand, there's additional food vendors. Is that correct? There's pedestals for additional food vendors. So Leonard's talking about craft vendors that drive in, park in, probably all plug into one outlet or single outlets out of the columns from the dance pavilion, or run generators, I suppose.
Yes.
They're doing, yeah.
And, we really don't want generators out there. It's just too loud and stuff.
This would be behind the regular concessions, right? Kind of that.
Yeah, it'll be behind
Behind.
the main concession stand that's already built. The buildings, it would be behind there is where we'd like to, yeah. And I did give SKMM where I wanted, where we wanted it put and everything else. So, they do have the things that we wanted, and I did put it, on paper, and they should have copies of it there in their office. But if they don't, I can make up more copies.
One comment, and I just wanted to clarify something, in regards to the, maintenance of the dance harbor. So right now, many of those main pillars have woodpecker holes in them, right? And if we don't address that,
There is, yeah, and that's one of the big reasons we need those oiled. Talking with, vendors out there, across the nation, the oil I would like to get is something that'll keep the little mites out. And that's why the woodpeckers are there. They're after the little bugs. And that's why the woodpeckers are there. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there. But the oil I want to get would seal that. And so that you wouldn't have the bugs in there. I mean, they're so small you can't even see them with the naked eye.
well,
But the woodpeckers can. And so the one log there is really bad. You can stick your arm all the way down in the log on one of the pillars. And that's why it's important. I think we gotta keep those logs oiled and stuff so they can
well, the
last
point
for.
the point I was making, Leonard, is if we do not address this, then we're constructing a whole new arbor. If we, because of the pillars, because the whole arbor is gonna have to come down to replace the pillars. So that's kind of where we're at with this. So that's how important I think we need to this is one of those, maintenance things that we need to prioritize because it's gone all these years without any kind of treatment. And so we need to address it ASAP.
What are we thinking?
Well, pedestals aren't included in this proposal here. I know we have talked about it. We have talked about that column that has the hole in it. I think some of that treatment materials will apply to that. We talked about things that we can put in there in terms of stabilizing that column and addressing that issue. It is a concern. I know that's been a topic of conversation, but if you look at the map here, I think Leonard's talking about additional pedestals on what I call the backside of the left side of that concessions area, which we have talked about. That's not included in today's task order proposal. We've identified all of the items in today's approval or today's request for approval.
Wouldn't it be to the right side of that? Like, don't the vendors set up on the kind of north side of the food vendors? Because there's that walkway down and then kind of above that where the landscaping is. That's where they set up, right? On the
Yeah,
other side of the vendors.
Yeah, the two walkways there, that's where all the food vendors are, and the craft vendors that sell crafts. We're up by the dance pavilion, and we're trying to move them because we're just too congested through there. It's why we want to move them back behind it. And plus for electrical, purposes. And the reason we picked that spot is because your electrical system would be closer to get to put those in.
So what can we do? It definitely would be advantageous for them to have their craftspeople.
In conversation to come up with a list that we've got before you today, and again, these are things we've all talked about since last November and probably before that for a long time. I think all of the things that are in the proposal today are very important. Are they most important? Again, that's debatable. That's part of the conversation. I would suggest approval of the task order before you today and the items in that task order. Beyond that, in terms of corralling additional pedestals, I think there's some work to be done there. Whether that's a separate task order or it can be done in some way, some other direction or funding source, I think that can be explored. But I think the things that we have before you today are in consultation, communication. I think that those are important enough to move forward with as soon as possible.
I'm on board with that as long as there's some consideration for what Leonard's asking. So I definitely believe task order 108 is tasks that are important. So I would entertain a motion to.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, go ahead.
And that's why I'm in here. I'd rather not do some of these if funding is the big question for you guys. I would rather not do some of the stuff on this task order they're bringing forward. I think it's more important to put in the electrical system for our craft vendors so we can lease out those spots and recoup some money, on when vendors come in. We had to turn vendors away last year because we didn't have enough electricity for them all. And that's why I'm in here. I would rather delete some of this task order to be able to get us our 30 by 100 place with electrical outlets for our craft vendors so we can have 20 spots for 20 vendors. We had 25 last year and we couldn't take them all. So.
Chairman, I don't want to see us refrain from getting anything done. Let's move forward with what we have proposed here. In addition to getting those outlets out on another contract. So, as far as I understand it, and Greg, you could clarify, I don't think funding is an issue at this point in time. Regarding the powwow projects.
So pardon me, so are we contemplating the change order? Or are you contemplating sticking with the existing plan and adding the outlets? That's really what
We are gonna, contemplate on sticking with this plan and adding the outlets. Is what I would advocate for.
In consultation with Lisa, I understand that the add-ons or the adjustments to the task order are entirely more costly than the original task order is. Do I read that correctly? So sticking to the existing plan and adding the outlets is a more cost-effective way of moving forward, and we can find the funding to accomplish that. Changing to the new task order would be sounds like a doubling of costs and a new path forward.
Explain that to me again, Greg.
My understanding is that the new task order that's being proposed is equal to the cost of the existing task order. So the change would be a double, to change paths would be moving to a equally costly but new work plan. And then to add the outlets would be in addition to that. If what I'm hearing Mr. Two Teeth say is let's stick to the original plan and add the outlets, then it rejects the new additional change order or the new additional, what would we call it? The new task order, but simply adds the outlets to the existing task order. And we have the money, we can find the money to add the outlets. That's just a small add-on. It appears to be a lesser add-on than doing the whole new task order.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. So when you're talking about creating this new spot for the vendors, you're talking about a pathway too that needs to be constructed, Leonard?
Yes. And most of it is there already. It wouldn't be much because that 100 foot that we have measured off would be where the road comes in on the backside for our existing vendors. I think if you guys have a picture there where we got that paved done, it would connect right to that. There would be a very short, if any, pathway to connect to that. Because on their task order, they're connecting that driveway to the dance pavilion, which is also a short distance. I don't know if you guys have a good picture of what was done last year. It's hard to explain. They don't? Okay.
Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, Leonard's talking about that singular, it'd be a diagonal yellow line there. That's existing pathway. So what we had talked about was extending from the dance pavilion to that pathway, which there is no connection there right now. It's just rough ground. So it made sense to connect the dance pavilion with that existing pathway. And then below to the left of that existing pathway, correct me if I'm wrong, Leonard, looking at pedestals, electrical pedestals right there. In terms of, that seems to be the point in question right now is those additional pedestals, whether that's a separate item to be tasked out separately outside of the proposed task order.
Good, Tom.
Yeah, so it makes sense to me to stay the course of what you got. And if there is funding available, that we could add on the electrical hookups for the vendors and still get that done before the celebration.
And that was my concern about the task order. If you don't have funds, I would rather delete more than half of what they're asking for today and get the stuff I'm asking for built.
Yeah, so the question would be, can we get the pedestals? And MVP might have to add another transformer. Yeah, maybe.
I would think not, because it's not going to take that much electricity. I mean, there's the, I don't know what you call them, the stations there behind the concession stands right next to the road where all of our electrical comes in. That's where the sticking pavilion is hooked into this year. Last year, when the old one was there, it was hooked to the bathroom. So when they shut off, when the tribe condemned the stick-in pavilion, we lost electricity to that bottom bathroom. And so with the new one we're being built, they're not connected, they're individual. So if you have to shut it off, it won't affect the bottom bathrooms.
I guess the place I got lost was that to talk about task order 108 versus a new task order. What would the new task order entail if it's so expensive? That's what I didn't understand.
No, it wouldn't be, it'd be a singular task order in terms of that item in and of itself. Just the cost of, and I can't quote that today in terms of what that would look like in terms of engaging Mission Valley Power and any engineers that have to do that. That's an unknown for me in terms of what that looks like, and that's going to take some time. That'd be a singular task order, I would think, unless you want to look at other things to put on that. I think that'd be singular.
Then I guess I'm lost in that we can provide outlets at a lot cheaper than a new task order that is just about the outlets. That's where I got lost. So I'm very much in favor of task order 108 getting completed and adding outlets if that's a thing that can be done.
So the question is, do we create a new task order, with acknowledging installation of those new outlets, correct? That's what we need to do.
I think if you want to include this item in a new task order, that would take a significant time and effort to bring back before you in a modified task order. With that included, I would think less so than going with 108 and then creating a new task order for the pedestals.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Cleaner, I think that's cleaner.
Go ahead, Tom.
Well, get back to Leonard's point, Greg. Hey, Lisa, is there additional funding on top of this task order that could be provided for $50,000 electrical service hookup or pedestals?
The budget director and I will have to claw back other assets from other unexpended tribal resources in order to accomplish that. It's a new addition. Ruth and I will sit down and claw back other unexpended assets from tribal resources to accomplish that.
That's a yes?
Was it a yes?
Leonard was saying, oh, we'll just drop the dust abatement and trade, right? You're trying to trade. Yeah.
Trying to trade off some of the things that these guys already approved so we can get something that's more important for the powwow grounds and the committee to work with.
I'm voting for going with 108 and the yes. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I think the right thing to do is go ahead with 108, and the holdup will be Mission Valley Power, whether we need a new transformer, as Tom said, or permitting, or whatever it may be. But we spent considerable time negotiating with the vendors. I mean, the medical building, for instance, they wanted $100,000. We're about half of that now. So to just disregard or throw some of them out, I know the vendors have also put in a lot of time, and that would just piss them off and we'd lose them. So I think going ahead with it is best for the powwow committee, the powwow itself, and all involved.
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't think you need Mission Valley Power, you need an electrician. And because it's pretty simple if they'll be able to determine if there's enough juice there or not, wherever you're gonna hook up from.
Yeah, but they still need to hook it up. Mission Valley Power does from their power source, and then our electrician will run it from there, from the disconnect.
My understanding is it could be hooked up to an existing panel.
If the panel's big enough.
Right, that's where your electrician comes into play.
Right.
Yeah.
And if we're having 20 boxes, I wouldn't say there's a panel there with that many.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna need another box for sure.
You're talking about like a 20 amp service for every person, Leonard?
Yeah, I mean, they were all plugged into one last year up at the dance pavilion.
These are just guys running lights and
Yeah,
they're not
just-
cooking stuff or anything,
No, just running lights.
just lights.
Yeah.
Or are they? Oh. Yeah. Okay. We would take it to 20 amp for each one. The RV hookup. Solar. No, just joking.
I do believe that, going forward with task 108 is kind of essential, Will.
Well, Mr. Chair, I think the valid point that Dan and John are no disregard, Leonard, but when you have that kind of time investment in negotiating prices, knowing that you're going to do it anyway sometime in the future, just like you said, we would have bought that oil 6 months ago, we would have saved $1,000. Same thing for what they've got going on right now for all the work orders that are in play. We wait and install one of those out, it's gonna be twice as expensive down the road, but it's just, can we squeeze in some electrical service for these craft vendors, whatever it might be? Anything's an improvement over what Leonard's talking about, safety of an extension cords lying on the ground, you can't have that.
And that's why I was trying to stay in touch with SKMM on what we really needed instead of want. And this is a need, not a want.
But I know I heard Greg say yes.
Claw back. We will claw back the money from other unexpended resources to make this happen.
If it can happen,
I beg your pardon?
if it can.
Likewise.
Even if we have the money, we're not be able to do it.
If we aren't able to do it this year, we can add it to the work plan because it wasn't on the original overall work plan. So it's something that we can adjust on that work plan.
Given that, I'd entertain a motion. Motion by Len, second by Bing. All in favor? Daniel, that. I think we're unanimous. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, John. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Leonard. Yeah, Bing.
Hey, John. John, is there a chance too that we can possibly get some one-way signs in that power grounds up there? And also some elder parking signs? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, just go in the gate, go on down, just go make that whole loop. Yeah, that's all. I just really need a few. Couple, just so we can put there, that one place there, right behind the harbor on the south side, the harbor. Yeah. Put there and put some elder signs in there. Appreciate it.
If I don't have it open, people will make it up. No, I'm just kidding. They'll just invent it. No. Well, she went in. No. Okay. Are we waiting for a quorum?
Nope, we got quorum.
Oh,
We're
okay.
ready.
I was, it seemed like
We're waiting for Ruthie.
half empty room. Okay. Okay, page 78 of your packet. I'm going to start off with requests to purchase capital equipment. I have several requests. Each one is fairly straightforward. Bison Range, we've already been awarded funding for deferred maintenance from the Federal Fish and Wildlife Service. So they now need to procure a dump trailer. It's already in their currently allocated budget, so we don't need to increase that budget.
Second is the Established Culture Committee, purchase manufactured structure unit for their adult language program. They'll utilize that for classroom space. This is going to be procured from the Water Compact implementation side of the funding. And then also a large SUV. It's going to replace the one that they've had for, I think, the last 11 or 12 years. So it's a large one. I think it's like an excursion or expedition or something like that. So it is a costly amount as reflected there. Also in the Water Compact. And then the final one is Charcusta. They're going to purchase a new SUV to replace their current aged SUV. Estimated cost will be procured out of the current capital equipment budget. At the time I made this request, it looked like we'd have to have that increase, but we're able to achieve this with the currently allocated budget, so that will not be an increase. So none of these were included in the original enactment of the fiscal 24 budget, so they now require council's approval.
We'll need action on each one, right?
I would accept all of those as just one action.
Okay.
Follow through on cost estimates and
Go
stuff.
ahead, Tom.
On as far as the van for, Charcusta News, that's used for hauling stuff too, is that the?
They go pick up their papers. So they go weekly to Kalispell to pick up all of their printed editions. And then they bring them to their distribution boxes and then to the back for like mail out subscriptions. And then they also use it for probably very occasionally, other work related purposes. I know mostly the reporters do not use this vehicle for that purpose. They use their own.
Okay, I guess my question on this vehicle they have quoted, seems to me like they would be better off going with something with better mileage, like a Sprinter van that they could haul stuff with and get over 30 miles a gallon.
Yeah, was that a Jeep?
Dodge Sprinter van? The Sprinter vans are like the new motorhomes you see that are small. They're van shaped. They're usually diesel, so their fuel efficiency is much greater than gasoline powered vehicle. They're called a Sprinter van. It's the most common, most effective cargo van made in the United States. If you're hauling something much better than a Chrysler Pacific Touring, whatever the heck that is.
Oh, and it is a Pacific Dodge Chrysler, yeah. I cannot recall exactly what their old vehicle is, but I know it's like a small SUV. I want to say it's a.
Oh, they have another Dodge.
It's
one of those ones that the electrical system goes out on. Drains the battery all the time. They're dead.
I don't like American made anything, but that's just me personally.
Actually, the Mercedes bought out Dodge Sprinter vans, so it's a Mercedes vehicle.
I don't like them either. I like the Choo Sui, those, basically Asian built is my go-to. Any other questions? Property and Supply does seek out the estimates for the type of vehicle they're procuring. So that's why they will administer it within the amount they're allocated. They may end up with a Jeep or something else. Those other ones, Ford Escape. Not sure.
Basically, are you looking to have them change while we do this?
Well, I think this is the course filter that I just would hope that we would eventually get to, where we're looking at reducing our carbon footprint first on one of our initiatives and looking at fuel efficiency, our longevity. So, I mean, I would never buy this vehicle at 22 miles per gallon, knowing what it is, knowing what I think they need it for. That's just me. I would be getting a Sprinter van. That's just me. Same price, more efficient. So I guess Property and Supply, Delphine, guess that's her charge. But I don't think they're looking at, they should be looking at fuel efficiency for the operational cost of the vehicle. But, 22 miles per gallon. I mean, I'd have to be forced into doing that, but that's me.
They currently use the property.
The Charcusta News.
Swap them out.
So what is this vehicle for then?
We have to swap them out. Because there's.
Yeah, there's
and
no,
so it cuts
not
me off the
operational.
vehicle. That's why. And Cassidy and Dad delivers on. Whatever.
Yeah, I'm just saying a Dodge Sprinter van is a better choice than the Pacifica Touring. So.
You know, Mr. Chairman, the other option and always in any vehicle is to lease rather than purchase. So if they did that, they would have to achieve that within their current program operating budget, and it's not a capital acquisition at all then. So I'll go with whatever approval you want to give at this time.
Well, we can separate each of these purchases out individually and hold that one off if, that's the desire of council.
Yeah, I'm not against them buying a vehicle. I actually support that. I'm just saying for the same price, I think you can get a better vehicle that meets what I would hope is our goals of reducing our carbon footprint and providing even a better hauling opportunity.
I just want to say to Mr. Chairman, these are, you know, the procurement standards, they're not set. Right now, it's programs get to procure what they want. And I, at times, like yourself, question whether they're actually procuring the best. You know, it's what they say is what they want or need, but, you know, like you, I have also passed judgment on the type of thing that they're seeking. You know, do they really need this, or is this what they want? Would they be better served doing something else? But without approved or adopted policy, we're not, you know, able to, I mean, I'm certainly not able to rule on it at my level.
Go ahead, Tom.
Well, that's exactly my point. I'm trying to get to follow policy that we've set. We said, this is a climate change initiative is real critical. Our goal is to reduce our carbon footprint. And so my expectation is that everything we do, there's a course filter that looks at that. Are we buying the best fuel efficient vehicle, whatever program it is?
Yes.
And so that's the course filter that I keep seeing keeps being ignored.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't see that that's actually present in vehicle procurement. I don't see that fuel efficiency as a high priority. If it is, it's
exactly
not obvious to me.
Me either.
Well, it's been recommended that we take these all four at the same time. Greg, you've got something? Oh, okay. And as Ruthie's pointed out, where the programs make their decisions, and we can complain to them. We certainly can. So, something, Carol?
Rely on the departments to make, you know, the best decision they can for their needs. So that's where I'd like to leave it, but I don't. Resolutions that we adopted? Does this fit that? What you're saying, Tom? I haven't seen the resolutions in a while, so I can't.
Mr. Chair, we're supposed to take into review anything that we do in relationship to climate change. And that's really what the resolution states. I think that's broad direction, not specific, as Ruth mentions, that we're going to buy the most fuel efficient vehicles every time we buy one. Doesn't give that clarity. I just would hope that people would make that grand assumption on their own.
But maybe, Tom, it's been a while now since we adopted those resolutions. Maybe now it's time to start clarifying what that exactly does mean, because we've been, going down this road for a while, kind of always reverting back to those. But now it's time to actually set things into motion and action on what we do mean. And I think it's time.
I'm bringing it up.
The language
You're gonna be
that's,
hearing about it.
that's listed in the background is that Charcooston News, where to go? Request purchase of an SUV to replace the current aged SUV, so Delphine would be able to make other recommendations, I suppose, if we just,
Oh, that amount.
so
Hopefully less.
can we do that then? Since the motion doesn't have to be specifically to that vehicle,
Correct.
make a motion out of here. Motion by Tom for the capital expenditures that were outlined for a dump trailer, for a manufactured structure, for an SUV and an SUV. Second by Len. All in favor? We're good. Unanimous.
Good discussion.
Greg.
We're now going to
As-
hear, go ahead.
As Ruth and I developed the fiscal 2025, I think it might be appropriate to take that resolution and to put that back out into the minds of the departments for their intended capital acquisition and any vehicles that they're taking into consideration in the upcoming fiscal year. So I'll make that part of the distribution for those decisions going forward.
Thank you, Greg.
Okay. All right, so jumping right in, I want to be mindful of your time and try to speed through this within the time that I'd requested. In the budget process, we're now at the stage where you have reviewed what the projected revenue is for the coming year. You were given that report last month, and we're now at the point where we're going to set allocation targets based on what is available and in line with council adopted priorities. Everything we just spoke about goes to cost effectiveness, cost efficiency. They're actually two different things. But the impact of climate change is very real to us. And as a government, we do a lot of spending, and that always correlates to impact. Every time we spend money, there is an environmental impact. There's no other way around that. It's either goods, products, fuel use, people, everything is impacting the world. And we are now in a place, especially going forward, with no real change in available revenue. So therefore, we're not going to plan to spend anymore. So in the current year, as you try to at this, we're now almost to the end of the third quarter. You're still dealing with current year allocations and how to keep squeezing everything you can out of there that you feel is necessary. In current year,
It looks like I have a question for you. Martin, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wasn't trying to interrupt. And Greg and Ruth, with that, could you also, I know that Quicksilver is small, but we've talked about this before, that if you are getting fuel, prioritize using Quicksilver as a tribal business, and if they need to stagger out their gas or for whatever reason, we should be buying gas at our own facility. And then once Elmo's up and running, that solves that. But if it's possible, people shouldn't drive from Arley to Pablo to get gas, but when all possible, like MVP, some of our other local programs, they should all be gassing up there. So thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Martin.
And then moving ahead to page 97 in your packet. So our conversation, is really going to always heavily center on tribal resources. Federally awarded and other special funds like the compact or the settlement funds, the self-governance, those are pretty much predetermined. You're only going to make decisions at the level of allocations for what's available. So what we call the tribal general fund and dedicated trust is really your discretionary decisions on spending and where it goes into what level. for the current or the upcoming year in the permanent class, and these are the ones that we asked you to adopt in fiscal 23 and say you will do these, but the only thing you will decide is at what level. The government services one of 900,000, that is the elders benefit. That is the amount we estimate needs to be made available for the annual elders benefit paid every January. The government operating amount of 800,000 is the burial allowance. That is the amount that we estimate needs to be made available based on the current rate of expenditure. Capital programs is land acquisition. We try to increase that a few percent every year. We ask a $100,000 increase to bring that to 2.2 million in 25. This is for land acquisition that would not be majorly or completely sourced by water compact. So it's all non-water compact acquisition. Per capita at 12.15, based on an estimated enrollment times the current annual benefit of 1,500. So it's total permanent appropriations request of just over 16 million. In the mandatory side, the tribal share of that is just over $45 million. So you're making or pledging those tribal resources available for that. And those fall out under the government services, a very big one in there, 5 million alone for facilities. All of the projects that you just talked about, Lisa and John have put together their proposed projects for 25 already. It's one of the first ones that I asked to be done because it's such a large outlay. So they do have a long list of projects, and they do have some contingency. And as you can see, it would not take long if we start out right after October 1 and then everybody comes up with more and more needs or wants. So it's critical, you know, that administrative services and the facilities management has done their forward look and they've identified the highest priorities to be done. And within the time available, because it's usually not always a matter of money, but a matter of time and available contractors to perform the work needed. The big one also in administration, you see in the center of that table, administration 23.16. The indirect cost pool portion, that is just over 18 million. We're holding that at the same level as fiscal 24. Court probation, this is going to see some increases to account for PL 280 implementation, as well as law enforcement. We're now going to estimate an amount that the tribe will supplement the BIA funded function of law enforcement. Legal remaining at its same as 24. Forestry also. The capital programs amount of 1.5 is capital equipment, just like what you approved. It's the current budget this year as well. So it's going to procure vehicles, equipment, and such for all non-federally funded programs. In the discretionary, and this is all totally tribally funded currently, government services, those are our language programs, our culture committees. In Health and Human Services, we're funding Second Circle Lodge and Dire Need. In Natural Resources, we're funding various programs, one which includes the Bison Range, $2 million alone just for that. Government operating is a small amount, looks very small. That's donations. About half of that is what we call a recurring donation amount that we pledge every single year to the same entities of the same donation level. In education, we're funding the Tribal Education Department and Two Eagle River School supplement, and also in administration funding some activities that are not considered mandatory, but rather discretionary. So you see in the tribal side, in the general fund, $69.8 million. Then right over there to the next column in dedicated trust, even though it's still a general fund allocation, it's divided out because we do have restrictions on the use of the fund. So again, those are funding USM and the language programs. In the government operating side, powwows, 210,000 alone for the powwows. And in education, there's the Two Eagle supplement. I misspoke when I said it was in the general fund side, but it's actually out of dedicated trust. The dedicated trust outlay of 2.6 million. In IHS self-governance, we are going to appropriate 30.6 million. Those would be for the core operations tribal health department. The 400,000 in government services goes to housing for operation of their water and sewer program. and then the indirect costs amount of 2.3 million. In the IA, which is called Indian Affairs Self-Governance, that's going to be a total requested of just over 19 million. And that's just to start off all of our base funded programs. We currently have a $49 million budget in BIA, but that's including all of the carry forward of programs that receive funding that they continue to spend. So total requested in the general fund, 69.8 plus 2.6. And then in the third line from the bottom where it says projected revenue available, we believe there's just over $40 million to cover general fund and dedicated. So we would transfer those amounts from reserve, 31.7 million and then 380,000. As well, both of the compacts will require small appropriations from reserves in order to balance that budget. We start getting into, as I said earlier, we have the different types of appropriation, both permanent, mandatory, and discretionary. And then when we ask you to look at a contingency amount, it doesn't mean that that's set aside somewhere. That's just a calculation. So in the coming year in 25, let's say that we did have to increase a budget somewhere, if there's funds available and if it can be done within that contingency somewhere, maybe it's just a small increase needed, then we would be able to do that without requiring your specific approval. When we look at the targets by fund, there's again where we dial way down into actually which segment of the general fund we're talking about. Obviously, our treasury and local revenue is our big one. That's where the dam rental goes in, where all of our lease income goes in. Dividends looks, really small because we can't project what's going to come forth in 25 from the corporations. And you've been told that those amounts are vital. They're no longer just important, they're vital. Without those, we would not be near the level of spending that we're able to do today. Compacts then are showing just what we enact, but then we carry forward whatever is not spent at the end of this year. Tribal Health's compact budget now is like, I think, 57 million. So they are carrying forward large amounts from previously awarded amounts in 21 and 20 and 21. Okay, so 122.2 total target for fiscal 25. And we start getting into functional allocation. This is the major class of expense foreseen in each one of those. When you see what that far right column is showing like decrease, it's probably just going to reflect the amounts that we don't know what's going to be carried forward from this year to next. So it's not decreases in actual, program spending at all. It's just showing that difference between now and then what we'll start with. When we start getting into the projected available, this is where you start seeing in that first part of the table, general fund, we have projected revenue, but cannot include class 2 gaming or corporate dividends. And then we want a budget of 72.4. So we have this gap of 32.1. The compacts as well, showing how much has to come from what we already have. So the first recommendation is your approval to appropriate from your reserves. So we would ask for an approval of up to 32.14 million to come from available reserves. There's going to be in treasury and a local revenue, enterprise dividends, recreation permits, and gaming. Obviously, we would not make these recommendations. We did not believe they could be fulfilled. So the only question is whether you want to do more or less. Recommendation 2 for permanent appropriations. Remember, this is the per capita, burial, elders benefits, and land acquisition. So we just, by narrative, show you how those kind of go forward with small increases where appropriate. Tribal elders, we believe about 1,500 eligible elders will receive the benefit next January. So a $30,000 increase. We're now receiving about $1 million a year in that revenue sharing fund. So we're quite happy that we're able to meet that. The burial allowance remaining right at the current level. It's already allocated, even with the increase in the benefit to 6,000. And capital programs increasing it by 5%. So only increasing at 100,000 to bring it to 2.2 million. And per capita, currently allocated at the same amount that it is this year, an estimated 8,100 tribal members. The third recommendation for mandatory, so this is a very glaring error. Even Greg did catch it, darn him. So I got to correct the words here. So it should say of the total 72.2 in general fund, a total of 45.275 million, which is a decrease of 3.59 million for mandatory appropriations. That's the general fund share of mandatory appropriations. Here's the key message. We're not increasing anybody's allocation. This is across the board. I'm not going to say that program A might get an extra 50 or whatever, and program B might have to be frozen. But in total, across the board, we're not increasing anybody's current year allocation in 25. So programs will have to survive just on what they have been on in the current year. Again, tribal resources only available for these programs. In the compacts as well, you would appropriate up to those amounts needed to balance the budget with the projected coming year funding, and then with the budget allocations total to make those balance. Looking at the government services, tribal prosecutors, we would foresee an increase for PL 280. Tribal defenders, we'd see an increase for PL 280. Tribal preservation remaining the same. Facilities O&M at 5 million. We were able to pare that down. We started this year at 10 million and then was able to shift a great deal of those projects to ARPA. So they have a planned budget of just under actually 4 million, and then they'll have contingency as well. The Gaming Commission, Environmental Health, and Rights Protection all remaining the same this year or next year as they are this year. All of these, go ahead. Yeah, it should be in your packet. Okay, and then in Health and Human Services, IHS, you see anything when it says IHS, that means the compact. I don't mean IHS agency. So you see all of those allocations all remaining the same. And then BIA, we start getting into those programs, social services, child welfare, and the 477 programs. NRD, general fund in the fish and game, same budget, shoreline, same permits, tribal lands, bison range deferred maintenance is running down the 5.4 million that they started with. We're estimating that for their budget in 25. You see the other BIA funded programs all remaining the same, no change in those allocations. And the government operating, again, all tribal funded this next group, the council, the executive support team, and tribal elections. That looks like it took a big decrease, but we won't have an election until late in the fiscal year, and then we'll just do some startup. 26, we'll see a full tribal election budget then. Education, the scholarships, and JOM remaining the same. At administration, let's see, 1, 2, 3, yeah, all of these are tribally funded. The non-indirect cost, a collection of expense that we can't allocate in the pool, so we have to just tribally fund it. The expense for tribal programs, IDC 2.5 million, in preference office, all programs remaining the same. When I see an increase, I'll try to point it out. Again, here's the big one, court probation. We're seeing increases planned for all for PL 280 implementation in the Court of Appeals, probation, juvenile detention, tribal court. BIA tribal court, however, will remain at its same allocation. Law enforcement on the tribal side, doing a 606,000 supplement, and then the regular BIA funded budget of just over 3 million. Legal department the same. All these other budgets remaining the same. Now in the discretionary, again, no changes, no increases to any of the programs remaining at their fiscal 24 allocated levels. Let's see, Two Eagle, Tribal Edge, Sharkusta, okay. A real swift look at the timetable. This is kind of, where are we at right now? We're right in this April to May column. Coming forward, asking you to say, yes, these allocation targets will work. Programs will then develop their budgets based on the allocations. We expect to get back with you by July and start talking about how the requests come in, matching up with what we'd ask them to be. This last part here is probably good information to refresh on all of the different funds especially the tribal ones like general fund. And then I talk in detail about each source of that revenue, where we're sitting with it today, or as near as we can say at the end of the fiscal year. So it really allows us to know whether you can make amounts actually available without jeopardizing cash flow or any other obligations that we know we have to make. And that is, that's it. As I said, following your action today, our next step is to request the programs to do their budget preparation. Most have done their fiscal 25 work plans. There's a few that we're still trying to wrangle up. But the executives are in charge of making sure that those have all come in. And then as best we can, do the allocations with what's available, and programs can figure out how best to meet their work plan goals, given the resources that they are allowed. That would be a deadline. I believe I requested deadline for them to do that is June 6th, so they get just about a month of prep time. We've done the capital acquisition request as well. So Vice Chair McDonald's statements are timely, and they're well taken, not only in cost effectiveness, but the impact of, as we're saying, climate change. Programs were asked to put these things in work plans for this year as well. And I sometimes see some references to it, sometimes not so much. But I think a lot of, just regular tribal spending is going to be needed to be really looked at. We have to look at a lot of things that have been done out of, I don't know, just tradition, habit, what have you. But this is what it's coming down to. We have gone forward in this year as though PL 280 will happen on the date that is the deadline date or the drop date or whatever you want to call it. If it should happen that we're in a transition period, we still have to, work on making the resources available. The programs still have to do whatever they have to do to put themselves in place for that. And that's what we have aimed to do. I want to also share that the last modification, I come in and ask you to make 800,000 of tribal revenues available for the bison range. We have been awarded that same amount, slightly more, from the federal government, from BIA, for transition funding again. So that was a big relief. Further, makes me breathe a little easier, trying to then balance off the needs for PL 280. So with all of that, if you have any further questions or comments, love to hear them.
Tom?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ruth, I know that sometimes these are come in, come go kind of budget scenarios as far as revenue, but where do I see the trends from revenue from Three Chiefs and Blue Bay and the Bison Range specifically?
In the revenue report, and I'm glad that I kind of focused on one of those. Bison Range is really the big one in that group. Bison Range has trended upwards since we took over. In 23, we got just over 680,000. And I don't know what they would project for this year, given any challenges or limitations they're working within. Like right now, they had some road work being done, and they were probably, beset by weather issues as well. My point in the revenue report was that they collect 80% of their revenue within 5 months. And so does it, behoove them to look at their cost of operation when they're hardly collecting anything? And that is something they need to look at. They need to look at, is it cost efficient to be open in January when they're only collecting, a few $100, but still have that full cost of staff and other operating costs. I don't think if they're spending $2 million a year, how they could cost effectively offset all of that. It would be a steep increase, I would think, in admissions. It would just be a lot of changing or decreasing their cost to operate. They would have to cut back on staff. They would have to cut back on other planned things. I want to make a comment too, and I hope nobody thinks I'm on the side of the federal government. But when we first got in there in 2005, the Fish and Wildlife Service would preach to us continually about, you know, this was a wildlife refuge. It wasn't built or maintained or operated for people. And I have to, you know, kind of reflect on that, because when you are bringing people somewhere or trying to intentionally attract them, you're going to do things that are different from if you were just simply maintaining a place for animals to stay. So a lot of our cost has gone into beautification or improvement of the facilities. So we have, you know, expanded the gift shop, we've expanded the visitor area, we have, you know, done a lot to, you know, make it attractive. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm simply saying it's come at a big cost. Fish and Wildlife Service, also being federally funded, had a lot of deferred maintenance. They had a lot of old equipment. They had a lot of less than optimal, you know, conditions within which they worked. The tribe has spent a lot to bring it up to the level that it is. But the question of sustaining it at what cost is going to be a difficult one. And I'm just being, you know, realistic to say they cannot in practicality completely offset their cost.
Well, I
They'd
beg
be
to differ
charging
with you. but
$100 a
Chair-
car or something like that.
Chair, I was just asking, where do I find that income from those three entities? And so you're saying on other reports, because it's not in this.
Yeah, it's only in the revenue report, and the only one that's even mentioned because it's significant is that Bison Range daily.
So we don't
sales.
mention Three Chiefs or
Three Chiefs.
Blue Bay.
I want to bring that one up too, just as a matter of just kind of a comment. Three Chiefs and Blue Bay are a couple of the many entities that are what I call a subsidized business within the government. None are even run on a business plan or a business objective, because if they were, we wouldn't have them, you know, set up the way they are. There's been times in the past we've tried to, you know, kind of move them into these more business areas, but that's ultimately going to be a council's decision to do that. Three Chiefs would not generate enough to offset its operation. Blue Bay possibly could. That's a
Well, it
different one.
actually always has.
Yeah, Blue Bay is generating a lot of receipts and collections. But I would have to kind of dig out from tribal government spending how it is actually sourced as far as like all the labor costs and the operating costs to see if it's a break even or whatever.
Oh, we've made a profit and put that aside and then spend it on
Yeah.
major capital improvements like the water system or something like that. Yeah, it's been
Yeah.
pretty tight. I just wondered about those other ones. And you're right, I believe Three Chiefs. That's why I was always interested in moving Three Chiefs to the first option where it should have been built the first time or Valley Hill.
Mhm.
But again,
Yeah. Yeah, that one, the greenhouse, that's the one, the one I always wonder about, the tribal greenhouse, forestry. But in.
just growing the wrong product in it. That's all.
Yeah, gotta grow those other plants. But, yeah, the real challenge for all of tribal government, but the tribal funded especially, will be to hold down their costs, to sustain, keep, current operations going. In one of the work plans I just read from DHRD, they were talking about the elders program. So I want to bring that one up since I'm getting older. They made a comment about it was challenging for them to try to meet all the needs of all the elders because it would deplete their program budget. And I have to say that if that's how they're approaching their work, then it won't just deplete their budget, it'll deplete the tribe. Tribe can't meet everybody's needs every time for everything. I mean, I'd like to, I think, what would I like? I can't think of it right now. Very blessed. Using my own family as an example, my mother thankfully doesn't need anything. What she's being provided is home care services that is third-party funded. It's technically tribally funded, but third parties in a class of its own, as you well know. I'm completely happy with that. I am thankful for that. But economically or because of her income, she doesn't need anything else. And I would like to think the program is serving the most needy. They cannot operate from an assumption of if you're past 70, everything's on the table. That's not gonna work. And I have, spoken about this quite a bit. They, I think are kind of flexing eligibility, or they go on income eligibility, then they don't go on it. They go on age, then they don't go on it. This was the comment was, one person is under 70 and one's over 70, so do you do the income or not? And I just think that if they have to stay with their same tribally funded budget for the services they're supposed to provide to eligible elders, then that's what they have to do. If they come back in here and say they spent it all in December, what are you gonna do? There's no place for you to change that unless you're pulling it from somewhere else. So it's a tough one. There's, right now, they have expended all of their dire need budget. They did that before half the year. And I have asked, will you restrict what you are providing it for? Because when I reviewed the types of services and benefits given, I had questions, just like when Tom and I are questioning, is this the right vehicle for this program? I mean, and it's not to do that to put down or to be critical of people. It's just simply asking a question that is a reasonable question. So I have held the department off with, well, you tell us how you're going to reduce or restrict the services for the rest of the year, because you've already spent your allocation. And I don't know if they reported to you that, but that's for just this year. If they go into next year and do that again, then they're doing the same thing. So that's sort of the things I think about, programs that have already spent ahead of themselves this year, and then we go into the coming year and they're on the same amount. I always say it's like your paycheck. I mean, I don't know about you guys, mine doesn't go up every 2 weeks. So I don't plan to spend any more than what I think I have coming. And always things that come up that you didn't think would happen. And then you're stretched till the next time. And I feel like at times that's the tribe. We're kind of on paycheck to paycheck and hoping that there's not a catastrophic event that really throws it off.
Thank you, Ruth. So the action we're looking for is to accept the allocation targets with the requested reserve amounts. Is that correct?
Yes, those 4 recommendations. Did you want to do each one of those separately? I think we did them that way before,
Okay,
just so it's clear that we're doing each of these actions.
so the first recommendation is, in addition to the 40.28 million of projected revenue, up to 32.14 million is recommended to be appropriated from available resources for fiscal year 2025 general fund budget. Motion by Tom. Second by Bing. All in favor? Unanimous. Second recommendation of the total of 72.42 million in general fund allocations, total of 16.05 million in permanent appropriations, plus 130,000 is recommended for the following programs and activities. Available revenues and reserves include treasury, local revenue, enterprise dividends, gaming, state, tribal revenue sharing, and recreational permits. Motion by Bing. Second by Danielle. All in favor? We're unanimous. Recommendation 3 in the mandatory appropriations. We got all kinds of parts of this. I don't know if I want to state it
A,
all.
B, and C would
So-
be okay.
Recommendations of A, B, and C.
And with that correction, Mr. Chairman, sorry to interrupt, it's a total of 45.275 million for mandatory, not 102. About died when I saw that, thank goodness I proofread it.
With that, Motion by Tom,
We don't have that.
second by Danielle. All in favor? We're unanimous. And number 4. What do we at?
Discretionary. I know, that's the longest one. There we go.
The discretionary. Total of 11.2 million discretionary appropriations recommended to be appropriated for the following programs and activities, and allocation not increased unless rounded to nearest thousand or unless otherwise noted. It reflects the net dollar increase and decrease of fiscal year 2024. Available revenues and reserves include treasury, local revenue, enterprise dividends, dedicated trust, gaming, and recreational permits. Motion by Tom, second by Bing. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, Ruthie.
All righty. Do that. I didn't do too bad. 50 minutes. Thank you much. See you in July, if not before.
Good afternoon, Rodney, Arlene, Mikey. Come on up.
Greg is requesting executive.
We'll go out of regular into executive.
We are.
Mr. Chair. Go out of executive into regular.
Mr. Chair, I have a question before.
Go ahead, Martin.
I'll ask it later. So what day are we planning on having this event? If I just went through a dead zone, I must have missed that.
May 30th.
What, and that's that 4 to 7 slot that you guys have on your schedule?
4 to 10?
Yep.
Yeah, 10-ish. I'm
So are you gonna
assuming it's gonna last longer than normal.
You know, every year we do fundraising with the kids at school and they use that to go on their own trip or a powwow somewhere. And we talked about the big celebration and what that would look like because our powwows are always social gatherings. They're not money payout gatherings. We do gifts, we do things that the students have made and have a big elders giveaway. And so I went and talked to Ruth and asked her, how do you guys do bear tracks? How do you guys do veterans? And so that's how this came about in asking for 20 grand. It's about what it costs to run a 6-hour powwow. It's a sad day and age that our powwows have gone so sky high and we have to have payouts to everybody, not just the dancers. Anybody that has anything to do with it wants money. And that's sad that Indian country come to that point, but our kids want to have a powwow.
Well,
Yeah,
we're recording, so.
If I may make a comment here. I've been in situations here where your control of the powwow is really up to that arena director. If he wants that powwow to get over quick, he can run your categories right straight through quick. One song, you're off the floor, next one comes in. That's why I was just telling Rod, if we could stretch this powwow into later on into the night. And I'm saying that out of experience because we had that happen to us at a Standing Arrow powwow where our powwow goers were upset that the powwow got over too early and they ran the categories too fast. A lot of them want to go, they're powwowing, it's powwow time. They've been working all winter. They want a nice, comfortable powwow. So we kind of caught heck for running that powwow too fast. Like I said, it's really up to the arena director to pace how long and what time you exactly want that powwow to be over. So I just throw that out there to my leaders here in this category of the powwow world. It's up to the powwow arena director, if he wants that powwow over at a certain time, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen either too early or you drag it on to, accommodate your visitors, accommodate your, spectators, accommodate your dancers. They want a powwow.
Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and tribal council members and our Tuga representatives. In honor of the 50-year anniversary of Tuga River School, those founding staff members and all of the teachers that have dedicated their careers to that facility and all of the students that have participated and graduated from the facility, I would be honored to make the motion to support the Tuga River School 50th annual anniversary powwow on Thursday, May 30th, the donation amount of $20,000.
Motion by Tom. Second by Carol. All in favor? And we're unanimous.
Yes, we'll get you a schedule. We have some right now. I'll just get them out to, emailed and, okay, download it. All right.
Renee?
Thank you.
Second.